There are 2 among the captains of the City Watch that remain loyal to Daemon. Let us replace them. Lord Lannister.
The treasury is well in hand. The gold will be divided for safekeeping.
Let ravens be sent to our allies, Riverrun and Highgarden.
Am I to understand that members of the small council have been planning secretly to install my son without me?
My queen, there was no need to sully you with darkling schemes.
We are the sword in the darkness. We are the shield that guards the realms of men. We are Game of Microphones. And now, it's your host, Sir Duncan the Fearsome.
Well met and good morrow, all you vile usurpers, awful oathbreakers, and fiendish foot fetishists, and welcome to Game of Microphones. I'm Lord Sterling, Sir Duncan the Fearsome, Dragon Pit Repairman, and it's gonna take me forever to clean this mess.
And I'm Lord Zach, Royal Hangman by day, Arsonist by night, cloaked and hooded.
Welcome to episode 129.
On this episode, we're covering House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 9, The Green Council.
And in case you're not already aware, this podcast is from the perspective of someone who's current on the show. That means you've seen all previously aired episodes of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon.
If not, there's still time to be brained by a stone sphere, so you don't have to hear these spoilers.
Warning.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Fear not, friends. If you haven't read Fire and Blood, which covers this period of the Targaryen reign, we will only be discussing events from the Dance of Dragons that have already come to pass on House of the Dragon, and we'll take caution not to spoil drama that's still to come on the show. And if you're enjoying our coverage of House of the Dragon and have enjoyed our complete series rewatch of Game of Thrones covering every episode in depth, please consider taking the black and helping us to get out of the red by subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/GOM podcast, or by making a one-time donation to keep our show alive at paypal.me/GOM podcast. Without any further ado, let's get into our coverage of House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 9, The Green Council. Whew, man. This episode was crazy.
Wow. Really? I mean, I guess on the internet, it may not be as universally loved as, the previous few episodes, but to me, this was right up there with the rest of the season. I mean, it was just nonstop plots and schemes and plots, as Tyrion said, schemes and plots are the same thing. I've always sort of wondered, like we saw a little bit with Joffrey and Cersei, but like not the behind the scenes workings of the council. And, we find out that, there's been this plot all along. But just to see, okay, the king dies. What's the next step? Okay. And that's where the episode starts. And okay, after that, then, after Talia finds out, Alicent finds out, then she goes straight to Otto, and then they convene the small council. And then the small council decides to do X, Y, and Z. And just sets like that day. This basically covers one day, and then the very next morning, because she says, Aegon will be crowned, tomorrow at dawn, and and they do that, and that's the end of the episode. So it's basically just this day that Viserys, that we wake up the next morning and Viserys has died, and then everything that happens that day to put Aegon on the throne. It's pretty, very, it's all in King's Land. Did we go anywhere else? I don't even think we have even a little spy shot at Driftmark or Dragonstone.
Yeah, it makes sense that we didn't see any Daenerys, any Daemon and Rhaenyra this episode, because all this takes place before they even find out. They've locked down the servants so that no word escapes, except for Talia's little signal flare that she sends with the candles in the window. And so it's all locked down. All this takes place before Damon and Rhaenyra find out. So next episode, we'll get their reaction and see what happens. I like that they did it this way because it's like it's happening in secret. So it's like its own little bubble episode where all the plotting and scheming is occurring, and then we'll be like back to normal next week. I bet.
Exactly, but like Otto says in the council meeting, time is of the essence. Mm-hmm. And Cersei understands this, in season 1 after Robert dies. She knows that Ned Stark is moving to oppose her. And of course, Renly and Stannis, or they have different plans. And Cersei moves quickly to, have Ned arrested, install Joffrey on the throne. And you can't waste time when you're usurping. That's what we've come to find out.
Yeah.
From Game of Thrones, a hot D.
Definitely.
So it's pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. So the episode starts picking up right where we left off. It's still dark in the castle and eerie shots looking down empty hallways and halls. And we got a little blonde boy walking through the halls, right? Wearing little black boots, little leather boots. And this kind of confused me because it seems like he's just some regular old servant boy or something. But he looks Targaryen, so I thought that it was Aegon and Helena's son. And then when we get to a couple scenes later, when they're like, "Where's Aegon? Where's Aegon?" I thought it was their like a son named Aegon of theirs that like ran off in the middle of the night or something. No.
Yes, I think Aegon and Helena's twins are Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, a boy and a girl.
Yeah, sounds right.
So I was thinking that it was little baby Darren, who is Alicent's 4th child that we haven't seen yet.
Oh,
but he's supposed to be in Old Town, as a ward. So
right.
I think he is just a little serving boy, but he has blonde hair, and I guess they just threw that in there to throw us off.
Yeah, I guess.
All he does is
inform
come out of the
Talia,
king's,
right?
Yeah, he comes out of the king's room, or maybe some other. It doesn't look like a secret passage that he comes out of. It just looks like a normal door. And he goes down to the kitchens, finds Talia, and tells her, who goes straight to Alicent.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
I think it's just a little serving boy or a little spy, child spy, or both. And he just happens to be blonde. So
yeah,
we were left confused in the moment.
Yeah. So Alicent is upset. She's beside herself, and she's on the verge of tears in bed as she learns of Viserys's fate. And she tells Talia to stay there. First, help her get dressed. Don't tell nobody. And so she gets dressed and leaves. And this is when Talia lights the candles in a pyramidal shape in the window. And this must be a signal to the White Worm and her crew, kind of like in in Lord of the Rings, how they have the signal fires on top of the mountains. And somebody's just on duty watching all the time. They know constantly that Viserys' death is imminent. So Mysaria's got somebody keeping an eye out, for this particular candle pattern in this window, and word makes its way back to Mysaria, as we see later. So, but for now, Alicent arrives at this at Otto's chambers to inform him, and he's asking who already knows, because this is like of the utmost importance with the plots that are going to be ensuing. It's critical that they compartmentalize this information and prevent word from getting out until things have settled and they've succeeded with their goal here. So,
exactly. This, we come in and I think we look at Otto for a minute, and he's just kind of standing there collecting his thoughts. But his first words are, "Who knows?" Who knows? So he knows that the control of the flow of information is of the utmost importance.
Definitely. And this is when Alicent tells him, "I saw him last night before he trails off. He told me he wished for Aegon to be king." And he kind of looks at her like, "What? Like, you can't be serious."
Yes, like Otto literally sits up in his chair and it was like,
What?
Exactly, like the gif of the guy saying, "Oh, really?" So go to the YouTube video if you want to see me impersonate that gif. Video is better. Audio podcasts are great, but video is better.
Yeah.
But he does this, like, he can't believe like they got this plan anyway, and they were going to move with this plan whether Alicent got this, word from on high, vis-a-vis Viserys about who should be the heir.
And it seems regardless of Alicent's compliance and complicity.
Absolutely.
So what would have happened? She would have been locked in her room just like Rhaenys,
Probably. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
If Alicent, is as pure as the wind-driven snow, as you like to think,
as I know,
just say,
you mean?
is if she never got, if Viserys never had that conversation with her, I guess, as much as I dislike Alicent, I guess she would have continued to go forward with supporting Rhaenyra as heir.
It seems like
Viserys hadn't, accidentally told her, the prince that was promised, it must be you. It must be you.
And it's only out of her love for Viserys that she feels now duty bound to carry out his wishes, his final death wishes. I really
does
think
get
so.
to install, right? She does get to install her own son on the throne, but
I don't think she wanted to.
Obviously, she's taken unawares as the Lannister. I wrote all the names down. The scheming plotters, the plotting schemers.
Darkling plots.
Anyway, it's Ironrod, Lannister, Otto, Orwyle, the Maester's in on it.
Is he? He doesn't seem
he's
surprised.
He's going along with it.
Yeah, he seems reticent or hesitant, though, as well.
But, basically the Maesters are, they don't have a political affiliation necessarily. They're basically sworn to give the best advice they can to whatever lord or house they're assigned to. So, it seems weird if somebody's going to go to war with Old Town, go to war with the Hightowers, and basically thus the whole city of Old Town, because the church is there and the Citadel is there. The Citadel of the Maesters is there.
Right. So he's just kind of grouped in with them.
He was trying to get Beesbury to okay, dude, just accept it that this is what's happening.
Could have just been out of self-preservation, though, because he recognized the danger.
Yeah. So Alicent tells Otto that, we had this conversation and I was the only witness. And this, Otto is he must be thinking, a gift from the gods. This is fantastic because it gives our schemes legitimacy.
Yeah.
So, of course, I think Otto sort of believes Alicent, but then he's like, this is too good to be true. She's just saying this to install Aegon. Even though we know she's not, she really did have this conversation with Viserys, but Otto must be thinking this is too good to be true.
It's her own little scheme.
Right. She's doing it to give the scheme legitimacy. And turns out there was already a scheme. Yeah. It was really cool, the plots within plots.
Yeah, really cool. So they convene the small council, and before they place the stones, they have a little conversation. Tyland Lannister is like, what could, what's so urgent it couldn't wait until I finish my beauty rest? But he's all primped up with his bling and everything. He's got huge neck. He's Mr. T, apparently.
Yeah, he walked in and did not read the room.
Yeah, didn't even bother to look at the expressions on their faces.
Yeah. Was Dorne invaded?
And Otto, the king is dead. He calls him Viserys the Peaceful, which is a cool name. We had Jaehaerys the Conciliator, Aegon the Conqueror. We have Maegor the Cruel prior to this. And now we have Viserys the Peaceful, our sovereign, our friend, as he refers to him empathetically. Or I don't know if that's the right word for that, but he informs everybody, and he's left us a gift. With his last breath, he impressed upon the queen his final wish that his son Aegon should succeed him as Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. And thunder ominously rolls. Mm-hmm. And who is it that? Oh, it's Tyland who responds, then we could proceed with the full assurance of his blessing on our long-laid plans. And Alicent kind of perks up like, what?
Long laid plans.
Yeah.
Man. This is, I can't remember from the books if I know they have a small council meeting, but I don't know if there's mention of a preset
plot,
plan. When the Queen died recently in Scotland, I guess there's some code name plan of what to do if she dies in Scotland versus England. And, there's different procedures and protocols to go through, but it's pretty cool to see there's this preset plan that they had already worked out, from a long time ago.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
In my mind, basically, Tywin Lannister has become Jason Lannister.
Yeah.
Like we first meet Tywin and he's trying to brief Viserys in episode 2 about stepstones, the stepstones. And Viserys is like, where's Rhaenyra? Where's Rhaenyra? Hey, do you know where Rhaenyra is at? And Tywin is like dutifully trying to report on the stepstones. But now Tywin has basically become the Jason Lannister that we meet at the Royal Hunt.
He really has.
Presumes, and he's pompous, and he presumes to know, what the succession will be, and he's trying to get Rhaenyra's, hand in marriage and all that. So, like in my mind, I just sort of fused the two, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, this is Tywin Lannister, the second son, or maybe the third son. I guess he's second, or further down the line."
Well, they're twins, right? So, unless there's triplets, he's good.
Yeah, he could be the youngest of 3, right? So.
He's probably like, since he's in on this plot and everything, he probably, before he was like, oh, I'm second son. I'm like, I got a cool job and everything, but, my brother's
still
the
not the
Lord. But now he's
not
like
the Lord of Casterly Rock.
Yeah, now he's scheming and he's like making big moves and having a big influence. And he's like building up his ego in the process,
Yeah. And like you said, his what's it called? Swag.
Oh yeah. His bling.
And his bling
swag,
is
his bling. Yeah.
He's blinged out to show everybody how important he is.
Every time I come around, you fit it bling bling.
So yeah, he just like spits out the plot. Like, oh, so we can proceed with the full assurance of our long laid plans.
Yeah, like outing them.
Exactly. We get this quick glance of Alicent's like, wait, what? And before she can even say anything, Otto's like, oh, yes, there's much to be done, as we previously discussed. 2 captains on the City Watch that were loyal to Daemon, they need to be replaced. And he tells Lord Lannister to do that. And Lannister, who isn't the Treasury, well, he's Master of Ships now.
Right.
And Beesbury, but I think he's about to take over Master of Coin. But anyway, he says, the treasury is well in hand. Gold will be divided for safekeeping, which I do remember something about the gold in the books. Something happens with some of it or all of it. I can't remember. But like, I think what he's saying is they're divvying it up, sending it to different locations just so that all their eggs aren't in one basket,
So they're taking the Targaryen soldiers, eliminating anybody who may be, free thinking or loyal to the blacks, and they're taking the Targaryen gold and splitting it up for safekeeping. That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've been purging the Targ loyalists from the forces for a while now.
Probably, yeah. There's only 2 captains left that remain loyal to Daemon. So Tywin talks about the gold, and Otto they keep on like running down the list of things they got to do. Let ravens be sent to our allies in River Run and Highgarden. So I started kind of making a list of who's
good call.
Who's greens, who's blacks. I need to I just wrote it in my notes, but I need to make a official, chart, left side, right side, greens, blacks. So it sounds like the Tullys of River Run and not the Highgardeners, the KoriEugene Kuhn, who's the last Highgarden of Highgarden. Anyway, I can't say it.
The last Highgardener of Highgarden.
Yeah. Makes me think of House Tyrell or Tyrell. How do you say it?
I say Tyrell, but it could be Tyrell.
Yeah. The Tyrells of Highgarden seem to be Team Green. They're sending ravens to them. And then here, Alicent finally cuts in. It's like, hold on just a minute. You mean to tell me that members of this small council have been secretly planning to install my son?
Without me?
And I think it was Ironrod. Yeah. Without her knowledge or consent. Like, it's her son. It's like, it's her, flesh and blood. Shouldn't she be consulted? This type of situation is crazy.
Absolutely. And this sort of affirms my speculation or my what I noticed, that she and her father haven't been on the same page, basically, leading up to this. You could tell that her father was scheming and she was like caught in between the two. It didn't seem like they were necessarily fully allied. And this proves it, that she's not even in on the plans and the plotting. And so that was quite the revelation. And this scene is so tense, dude. You could cut the tension with, you don't even need Valyrian steel to cut the tension. You could use a butter knife, you know?
I think it's Ironrod who says, "Oh, my queen, there was no need to sully you with darkling schemes."
Yeah, Darkling. Cool.
Which made me think of Darkwing Duck. And it also made
Darkwing
me think,
Duck.
yeah, love that cartoon as a kid. It also made me think of the Darklands, of Duskendale.
Yeah,
that
like we were just
about,
talking about. That's what made me
last
think
week
of.
or 2 weeks ago. Darkling schemes. And then here we get the man of the hour, the hero, Lyman Beesbury. He stands up. "I will not have this." There's nothing he can do. Literally, he's outnumbered, 6-1 or 7-1?
Yeah, he's in big trouble. And speaking of Darkwing Duck, when there's trouble, you call DW, right?
Yeah. Save for, Harold Westerling, sort of seems to be of the same sentiment. But
Doolally old man.
To hear you're plotting to replace the king's chosen heir with an imposter. I was like, he stood up. I was like, yes, he's an imposter. Let's go, Beesbury.
And I'm like, oh God, Beesbury's fucked. He's in trouble. He's surrounded by a den of vipers here.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Super viper. What's the movie where they fall into the snakes? One of the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, I think it was number 2.
There's snakes everywhere.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? They enter
that sounds right.
They go climb down the thing in the map room, and then something happens, and there's snakes. I don't know. I don't know.
But that's Beesbury in this moment. He is surrounded by the snakes of the high towers.
And he just yells, "I'm sick of all these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane." This motherfucking council.
So Beesbury had called Aegon an imposter. And Tylan says, well, the firstborn son of Viserys is hardly an imposter. And Beesbury, brings up the oath, that they swore, all these lords and knights, swore fealty to Princess Rhaenyra. And Tylan tries to just, brush it away. 20 years ago, most of them are dead. I think in the books, Tylan even says, I swore no such oath. I was merely a boy at that time.
Oh, interesting.
So, bringing up his own personal, is like, my dad or whoever was Lord of Casterly Rock back then, they may have sworn something. Me?
Not me.
I didn't swear anything. Not my problem.
Not my chin, not my problem. That's what I say.
Exactly. He says, 20 years ago, most of them are now dead. So then old Ironrod, Jasper Wild, says, you heard the hand. Our plot, notwithstanding, the king changed his mind.
Plot or no.
Yeah, here Beesbury, he just doubles down, sort of like Vaemon last week. He's like, no, I don't care what you say. I'm 76 years old, which is really old for this,
wicked old
history. If we say that this is, equivalent to real medieval times, average age was 40 or 45, maybe.
Woof.
Maybe 60 was a really long life. This guy's 76, in which he is, he's lived a cush life of, lord of whatever the Beesburys are lord of, and, master of coin for many years now.
I heard something about that recently, that the average lifespan it's shorter in a number like that when you do an average, but that they counted childhood deaths because it was very common for infants to die. And that brings down the average a lot more than it would be. So it wouldn't be as low as they say, but it wouldn't be quite as high as current times
nowadays. Still. Yeah. House Beesbury of Honeyholt, a minor house from the Reach.
Bees and honey. That's hilarious. And he's like, I will not believe that he said this on his deathbed alone with only and he kind of pauses, the boy's mother as a witness. And it's like, yeah, she's the queen, but categorizing her here as the boy's mother emphasizes her personal stake in the situation and how she may be liable to manipulate.
It definitely does. But it also, he doesn't call her queen because her powers as queen were derived from being married to Viserys as king. Now Viserys is dead, so I guess she would be, our UK listeners
regent?
Can correct our queen. Well, regent means she's ruling instead of the child. There was a Baratheon, some Baratheons, back in history that were queen regent and Hand, who was acting as regent also, or something like that. But So I think Queen Regent is when there's a kid that's king and hasn't come of age yet. But like Dowager Queen, now that her husband is dead, I think that might be it. So anyway, he doesn't call her anything. He just calls her the boy's mother as the only witness. So that was pretty nice, kind of a little bit of a low-key zing at Queen Alicent. This is seizure. It is theft. It is treason.
The T word. He said it.
And that's like Vaemon, finally saying last week, our children are bastards and she's a whore. I was like, all right, that's it. That's the end of the line for
She
Beesbury.
puts the whore in horny because she's, she's on her sixth kid at this point, right?
Oh, does he say at the least it is, he was about to say something else.
Oh yeah. And before he's cut off by somebody.
The Grand Maester Orwell thinks, says, mind your tongue, Lyman.
And right at this moment, Sir Criston slinks over behind Beesbury. And I was like, oh God, he's moving into the kill position.
Yeah. The king was well last night by all accounts, because he'd had the dinner and was, the first part of the dinner, he stood up and gave a, rousing speech about, making peace with the family and everything.
Yeah.
So, Beesbury is saying, he was well last night by all accounts. Which of you can swear that he died by his own accord?
Ooh, which of us are you accusing of regicide, Lord Beesbury?
Oh, man, it's, whether it was one of you or all of you, I care not. And it's like, so he doesn't care if it's one of them or all of them. Somebody here has killed the king in his mind, or at least potentially. So he's just throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah, I will have no part. And then boom.
Somebody says, sit down. Was it Criston?
I think it's Criston. He shoves him and says, sit down at the same time. And I think he may have I think he was really just trying to get him to sit down, but he fell and boom.
Yeah. The first time I thought, I was like, I think his hands were on his shoulders and he was just trying to get him to sit down.
Yeah.
But then somehow Cole's hand also smashed his head into the ball. I was like, well, that was overkill.
Brained by a stone sphere.
That's crazy. Christian Cole brains Beesbury here in the show, but in the books, a Mushrooms account is that Cole tosses Beesbury out of a window in the Red Keep to his death.
Dude.
Pretty crazy.
That would have been cool. I think there's a couple theories according to the Maester that wrote the book.
Yeah.
According to Mushroom, he gets defenestrated, tossed out the window. And according to another source, he gets his throat slit. So I like how history is kind of unclear about the things that happen. Yeah. Like from the layman's perspective, it would seem that Alicent was spearheading this whole operation, but in this show, it's clear that she was kind of a pawn. And, you'd have to be really on the inside of everything to know that Alicent wasn't involved to the extent that she is,
Definitely. I didn't think, they kept, in the beginning, the first couple episodes, they kept focusing on those little spheres of the small council. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's the deal with this? What are we going to do? And they roll this one that we do get a cool shot, almost like a pool or billiards table. They roll Lannister, his ball kind of down the length of the table.
Oh, I missed that. Damn.
Yeah. At the very beginning of the scene, of the small council scene, the camera is like sitting on the table, and the little master of ships, his ball, and rolls down toward him, and he grabs it and he takes it and goes clunk and puts it in his little disc or whatever. And I think that's right as he says, "Oh, what couldn't wait an hour? I've been sleeping," or whatever. He hadn't finished his coffee.
Yeah, it was interesting because Otto went over a couple things before placing the ball into the holder, like he detailed how the king was dead, and they talked about their plot, in his hand. And then boom, he puts it in.
Yeah, the hand was kind of fidgeting with his when he said the king is dead, and then it was a few more lines back and forth with him and Lannister before he came over and set his ball into his disc and sat down. So Lyman's last words were "ah."
And immediately upon this, Sir Harold unsheathes his steel and starts calmly walking around the table towards Sir Criston. And I was like, oh my God, dude. Sir Harold is not having it. The whole time he's been kind of looking around the room like, what the hell is going on here? This is crazy. And he's in a dangerous situation. I kept yelling, "Get out of there, Harold! Get out of there!
Run!
Yeah,
Fly, you fool!
Fly, you fool!" And he tells Kristen, Allison to kind of is like, "Sir Kristen, like she reacts in horror sort of to him murdering Beesbury. And Harold is telling him, throw down your sword and remove your cloak, Sir Kristen. Like, you're done as a Kingsguard. This is at least the second straight murder that you've committed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not honorable or acceptable for the Kingsguard. And dude, he draws his own sword, Kristen. He pulls it out, and in one smooth motion, just whoop, right to its position. No wavering or anything. It's like he has perfect control over the blade, and just whoop, puts it right up to point to Harold's neck. And he's like, I will not suffer insults to her grace, the queen. And I thought for sure they were about to duel at this. This scene is so crazy, dude.
So yeah, I couldn't remember anything specifically from the books here where Kingsguard, came to swords, but it definitely seemed like it.
Apparently, Sir Harold has long dead at this point in the books.
Yeah, that's right. I did hear that somewhere today or last night in All Shift X.
Yeah, I think they mentioned it on All Shift X.
So, but I mean, they cast Graham McTavish, so they had to give him some more stuff to do.
Love that dude. He's so good.
He's really cool. And, I love his character now even more. Because remember, one of the very first scenes of the show, maybe the very first scene is
him and
Cyrax
Rhaenyra
coming over the clouds, and then she lands at the dragon pit, and it's him and Rhaenyra, and he's talking about how it's good that she's back and safe. Otherwise, they'd have his head or something like that.
Yeah, he has a special sort of little bond.
He has a lot of history with Rhaenyra. Not the kind of history that Cole and Rhaenyra had.
That we know of. I mean, she does put the whore in horny. The hoe in horny, you could say.
And Allison is sort of like, she's almost like wringing her own neck. She's just so like, she used to like pick at her fingernails, and seems like she's like wants to just Homer Simpson herself back into her chair. Homer Simpson into the bushes. Just like she's just like,
She's done that a couple times too. When she found out that Larys murdered his own family, she did that thing where she grabbed her neck as well.
Oh, like she realizes that the situation is strangling her, and it's like she's like subconsciously does it to herself. It's pretty crazy.
And she tells Sir Kristen, there was no insult. Put aside your blade, but she doesn't tell him to remove his cloak. So she effectively overrules Westerling in this moment.
Yeah, and he immediately puts his sword away. Usually, there's like they still like they hold it there for a few seconds and like reluctantly like okay, and they put this. But he like immediately she called off her attack dog. And
like a toy soldier, just his arm lowers.
And Westerling still had his, on him, and then he, removed his sword too a moment later.
Crazy, dude.
Somebody says, "Has it come to this?"
Yeah, that was Westerling. He's like, "Has it come to this?" Looking back and forth across the room, like, "This is madness." This is madness.
Exactly.
This is madness.
Orwell tries to get him to remove Beesbury's body, but Otto is like super hardcore. No. The door remains shut until we finish our business.
And Rhys Ifans really brings like a dark tone for this line.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. The door remains shut until we finish our business.
And Orwell is kind of looking around like, oh my God, like I think I'm over my head here.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak up like Beesbury did.
Yeah.
Because they'll brain me too and leave me sitting here bleeding out while they finish their business. Yeah. I think it's Lannister who says Storm's End is of concern.
Thailand.
So it's interesting to know that the Baratheons are potentially Team Black, or he says if they get a good marriage proposal, maybe that could sway them. So maybe they're in the wind. They're nobody knows who they would be allied with.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And Allison at this point is like running her hands through her hair like, oh my God, like she puts her head forward and she looks really overwhelmed. But then she immediately changes the subject. What of Rhaenyra? Like, this is the major wild card problem here.
Wild card, bitches!
I think, is it Otto here that says the former heir cannot?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, it's
Otto.
I'm
trying to remember. The former heir cannot.
Nobody else would have the balls to say that, right?
Yeah. The former heir cannot, of course, be allowed to remain free and draw support to her claim.
Dude.
And then Alicent gives them the benefit of the doubt and says, "Oh, you mean to imprison her?" she comes to a darker realization, in a few lines.
And Harold is looking around like, "You got to be kidding me!
Are y'all really talking about this?" Otto says, "She and her family will be given the opportunity to publicly, swear obeisance to the new king." And Alicent knows, she'll never bend the knee, and neither will Daemon.
You plan to kill them.
So it's like Otto sort of explains his way out of, they'll be given a chance to bend the knee, but it's like, no, they're never going to do that. So, and then, Alicent realizes the end goal, the end result,
Yeah, and then she looks around the room and says, "You and all here accede to this." Accede. I thought that was a cool word. ACCEDE.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like agree, I guess.
Right.
And Harold is legit like, what the fuck at this point? Like he's just looking horrified by all of this. And Orwyle is, maybe he is in on it, like you said, because he's agreeing with Otto, saying, "Your father is correct, Your Grace. A living challenger invites battle and bloodshed."
Yeah, I mean, it does. And he may be thinking of as, he's not choosing sides. He's just stating the facts that leaving a challenger alive is just an invitation to war and bloodshed. Yeah. So it's, it is true. I mean, what do you say? He's not telling, no lies were told, but it seems like he's, if he's not in on it, he's just, he's playing the not going to get turned into Beesbury card.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, Otto says, "It is unsavory." Like,
yes.
Just a tiny bit. It's a tiny bit unsavory.
Just a tiny bit.
Here we get, the age-old line, sacrifice the few for the good of the many.
Right.
We must make a sacrifice to secure Aegon's succession.
Like, who is it in some movie says, "Why? Oh, is it Tywin, right? Is it not better to kill a dozen people at dinner than thousands on the battlefield?" Yeah,
at war. And he has a point, from a pragmatic standpoint, but, the rules of war and the customs of the day, as far as, dinner, guest right and that sort of thing, it's pretty crazy. Then there's Daemon to consider. So it's like, they're thinking of Rhaenyra and her claim, but also there's this total wild card.
Yeah. It's going in
There's
there.
Daemon to consider. The king wouldn't wish for any unsavory.
But the king would not wish for the murder of his daughter. He loved her. I will not have you deny this. And it's Iron Rod, right? Who says, "And yet," and she's like, "One more word and I'll have you removed from this chamber and sent to the wall."
Man, she's had enough from old Iron Rod.
Cool mention of the wall. So I guess they were sending scoundrels there at this point still.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like when Jaehaerys and Alysanne visit the wall, that's one of the things that they said that they need even more people than the crown and the other lords are sending them.
Right. At first it was considered like an honorable job, right? Where they sent good men to the wall. And then after a while, and people were forgetting about the threat of the White Walkers, it sort of, nobody wanted to go anymore. So they started having to send criminals and people like that, right? I think something like that.
I can't remember at the beginning, because the wall pre-existed Aegon.
Yeah.
And his
by a
conquest.
long time.
So yeah, way back into the deep history. I can't really remember if it was thought of as more of an honorable thing or a second son's. Benjen, he's an honorable second son.
Yeah, that's a little different with the Starks.
Chooses to serve. Yeah, the Starks do. They have like this family lineage and duty and tradition of serving. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after Alicent, puts Iron Rod in his place, everybody, like all the conspirators, kind of trade looks.
Yeah, like, oh shit.
What are we going to do with the queen if she won't get down with this plan?
Yeah, she's a problem here.
And then Tylan, plays a pretty good card. It's like, okay, what do you want to do, Queen Alicent? What do you suggest? And like she's kind of at a loss for words, and Otto puts on the pressure. Time is of the essence.
Yeah, he just does it. He just gives the command. And this is like forgetting, like, oh, they'll have a chance to swear obeisance. No, they won't. He says, Lord Commander Westerling, take your knights to Dragonstone, be quick and be clean. In other words, kill them and be done with it. So he's not even giving them a chance to swear obeisance.
No. Yeah, he was just jumping through that hoop for Alicent to get to the logical conclusion of what must be done, for the good of the realm. He commands the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard to go and splinter cell Daenerys and her family. Sneak in the castle and murk them.
Isolate, simplify, complete.
We're on the same page?
Affirmative.
Mark them.
And just immediately, it's not like he sits and thinks about it. Like he gets that command from Otto, and Sir Harold just reaches back and just rips off his white cloak. Just folds, not even folded up, he just rolls it up, sets it on the table.
Yeah, interesting how that's like clipped on or something. Velcro. They must have Westerosi Velcro because you can just kind of pull it off and
sort of like wearing a real necktie. If you get into a fisticuffs wearing a real necktie.
Oh, that's
problem.
That's
bad. That's real bad.
Bad.
If you wear a clip on and somebody grabs your tie, so I would think the same thing. You wouldn't want a cape like for somebody to grab you and yank you, in a tactical situation.
True. Good point. Very good point. And he's just like, rips off the cape like you're saying. I am Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and I recognize no authority but the king's. So he's like, if there's no king, I'm not listening to any of you fucks. You people are all insane, and I'm getting the hell out of here, basically. And he leaves his cape on the table and books it. I was saying, run before Sir Criston comes for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because and I thought Otto might do something like that because he wants to control the flow of information. Anybody who leaves the room is, a wagging tongue.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And they just said no one leaves. Those doors stay closed until we're done. Yet nobody tries to stop Westerling.
But I guess assuming this is the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, for us to stop him, we're literally going to have to kill him. So I guess, Otto and company, make a strategic decision in the moment that's like, okay, we're going to do more harm than good if we kill Harold Westerling right here.
Yeah, all they have is Sir Criston.
Right. And that's a 1v1. Criston has the age, but Westerling, has the years of experience, if not the combat experience. But, so this, even then, if they face off Criston versus Westerling, 50-50 split, maybe, 55-45, who you face, I'm not taking betting odds on that fight. So.
Yeah, crazy. I'm like, oh my God. At this point, I was like, woo, this is getting bonkers. He has no place here. And he leaves and exits. And it's right at this moment that a new version of the song, The Light of the Seven, begins to play. And at first it's piano.
It is our fate, I think, to crave always what is given to another.
Mirroring the piano that was playing when Cersei was getting dressed and Tommen was getting prepared before the sept explodes. Yep.
All right. I'm ready.
And then later on, this music continues throughout the next scene or two. And it starts with the piano, and then it brings in the strings, the theme of that was playing as Alicent was walking down the aisle at Rhaenyra's wedding in her green dress. And so they're sort of, at this point, straight up, because they only hinted at the Light of the Seven in that original scene as Alicent was walking down the aisle in the green dress. But now they're straight up using Light of the Seven.
It is our fate, I think, to crave always what is given to another.
Just in a slightly altered form. And then they mix in Alicent's theme, and it's like these two are the same. So they're really, really making Alicent like Cersei in terms of the music. That's what the music is telling us, that these characters are like parallel characters.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're playing on that the chords or the notes from the original Light of the Seven song. Right. And then just the sound of that, because the piano was not used in Game of Thrones until Light of the Seven. It was all strings and horns and woodwinds and whatever else there is in music.
Kazoos.
Yeah. Recorder. But piano, that was the first time Ramin Djawadi ever used piano in Game of Thrones. So good. Now we're, the experienced audience, like we correlate that piano and that sound to like, oh no, what's going to happen? We've been conditioned like Pavlov's dogs.
That's
to,
a great
we
point.
hear the piano. It's like, oh no, hold on to your seat. Danger, Will Robinson. And then they released on Water Tower Music, they released 2 songs that were in the show last night. One's called Lament and one's called Fate of the Kingdoms. And they're both pretty, you can find them on YouTube, and I guess they're on Spotify, but so you hear a song on Spotify and it plays songs like that song, which is going to be the whole Game of Thrones back catalog of music, of Ramin Djawadi's music on Spotify. So if I just go to YouTube and click on a specific song and you can listen to it, but they've only released 4 songs so far from the season.
Oh, interesting.
I think they released one last week or 2 weeks ago.
And then 2 from this episode.
Yeah, 2 this episode and then 1 from the first episode. So, or the second, I think it's a song that was playing during Rhaenyra's, not coronation, but her announcement as heir at the end of episode 1. So yeah, the music was really good. At the very beginning, there's a more like melancholy tone, to the song.
Piano.
Lots of piano.
Direct mirror of Light of the Seven at that point. Same notes.
Very, very good stuff.
Yeah. So then it cuts to Helena's chamber as Alicent arrives. And before that, Helena's sitting there with like a handmaiden, and she's talking. She says something that's interesting considering everything that's going on. It is our fate, I think, to crave always what is given to another. If one possesses a thing, the other will take it away. And so this is mirroring a couple situations. It's mirroring the Alicent and Rhaenyra situation, and it's also mirroring the Aemond and Aegon situation as we see later on, because Aegon is given the throne and the heirship, but Aemond wants it, and he, for all we know, he's going to try to take it away at some point. And it also mirrors the hunt for Aegon situation. Otto wants Aegon and sends Eric and Eric to go find him, but Alicent takes him away. And so Alicent busts in, and she's asking about where Aegon is. And at this point, I was thinking it was the little kid, like maybe their kid's name was Aegon. But no, she's referring to the Aegon, the now full-grown, man-grown prince, her son, Alicent's son, Aegon. And he's not there. He's not in his rooms. He got wind of the situation and he dipped. He fled from the castle off into the shadows. And we see the kids, the twins at this point. And I heard something about them having 6 fingers and toes, but I did notice that one child's hand opened and it was 5 fingers. So,
oh, nice.
We'll see if they, incorporate that little book detail eventually, or whether this was just an error or whether they're not going to bother with that. And so it's all chaotic, and the handmaiden leaves, and Alicent sits down next to Helena, and she starts talking with her. I think Helena says, "Father," like she knows what's going on. And Alicent says, your father, and Helena cuts her off. There is a beast beneath the boards, more urgent this time. And Alicent is like, oh, my dearest love, and reaches out to comfort her. But Helena swipes her hand away.
Yeah, Helena's like, don't get in my personal bubble.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And it's at this point where Aemond shows up, having figured out what's going on to some extent, and just kind of stands there in the doorway, ominously.
Silent, all Daemon-like.
Yeah. And then next it cuts to Otto. You want to talk about this part?
Yeah, the camera is on a sword, and we don't know who it is yet. And he's Looks like he just has a rag. I was expecting to have a whetstone or something to be kind of filing it or sharpening it, but I guess he's just wiping the blood off of it from whoever he killed. No. And it's Sir Eric with an E. And I'm going to try to say Eric with an E and Arak, almost like the Dothraki. Arak. Arakh. But there's Eric and Arak, who is obviously on duty. And he puts his sword away. Where's the prince? And then he says that, forgive me, Lord Hand, I do not know. And then we find out that Eric with an E is the sworn protector of Prince Aegon.
Yeah. So he knows of all of his knightly deeds.
Right. But, you know, he's supposed to know where he's at all the time, or at least when he's on duty.
Right.
But, you know, Eric just, you know, tells the Hand straight up, you know, he exploits his authority over me and then evades me. So he's just like, I order you to turn around and walk 1,000 paces. It's like, the prince is telling you to be derelict, you know, in your duty. But it's like, if you disobey the prince, then, you know, he'll probably turn into Joffrey, you know, remove his white cloak and send him to the wall. He won't obey the prince. Yeah. So it's like, man, this is a terrible situation to be in for a prince that doesn't want to be protected or looked after or have anybody following him. But everybody else is expecting you as the Kingsguard and his sworn protector to keep tabs on him 24/7. So, you know, pretty crappy duty to be like, give me Viserys, I'll watch the old man lying in bed and I'll protect him. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, pretty brutal.
Protecting these young princelings is, you know, pretty terrible duty.
Yeah, so he instructs him to go and find him, to take no one else but his brother, and to remove their white cloaks so nobody knows who they are or what they seek, including the queen. And that's kind of a telling thing.
Yeah, this is like top secret SCI, you know, super secret mission from the Hand. Not even the queen should know.
SCI, secure compartmentalized information. Is that what that means?
Yep.
Nice.
Or top secret. It's something compartmented information, either secure or secret. Anyway, top secret, sensitive compartmented information.
There you go. Sensitive. Yeah.
Something like that. So
he's like, my lord, I will. And dips. Bring him to me and me alone, Sir Eric.
Yeah. So don't bring him back to the Red Keep and just dump him in the courtyard.
Yeah. And don't bring him to the queen.
Yeah, bring him straight to the Hand. And this, they start rounding people up. Talia, the servant girl, gets thrown into jail. I don't guess they're the black cells because there's torches. There's torches and stuff to where they could at least see their cellmates.
Yeah, they're probably not the black cells.
You know, and
just some kind of holding cells, though.
I wrote straight to jail, right away. Everybody.
Right to jail, right away.
Everybody who possibly knows. Round them up.
Yep.
Throw them in the jail.
All the servants, they're trying to compartmentalize the information as quickly as possible. They lock Rhaenys in her chamber. She wakes up and she's like, what is the meaning of this? As she hears her door lock and she's trying to open the door and she goes down.
Yeah, this is where we see Rhaenys too. Okay,
yeah. And she goes to the window and looks out of the window and we see all the servants being funneled down towards the holding cells. And she's like, what the hell?
What is going on?
Yeah, and Larys is watching as usual. And then this is when Kristen arrives back to Alicent and Aemond to give her an update. And so this is interesting. He says, you know, Prince Aegon's not to be found within the castle walls, Your Grace. Your father has sent Sir Eric into the city to find him. But how does Kristen know this? Otto did it in secret and told Eric not to let anybody know. No, you know, no one can know who you are or what you seek, including the queen. But Kristen knows this immediately. How? That's what
Right. Yeah. That's, you know, a tiny plot hole, I think. You know, unless he's like, he sees them changing clothes in the Kingsguard locker room. It's like, hey guys, what's up? Oh yeah, we're just going to the city. We're just going to the city on a super secret mission for the Hand. You know,
we're just going to get some ice cream.
Where are you going?
Just leaving.
But where?
I have to return some videotapes.
Yeah, that could be. And he just kind of puts two and two together.
Yeah, maybe just, you know, they searched everywhere else, and Eric and Arak are nowhere to be found, so they must be out on a mission. And he may think, okay, Westerling's gone, presumably, not in King's Landing anymore, or not in the Red Keep anyway. We know the guy. Who is the guy who announced Daenerys?
I'm not sure.
Darklin? Stefan Darklin?
Oh, yeah, Stefan Darklin.
He's the only other known Kingsguard beside the two Cargill, C-A-R-G-I-L-L.
I say Cargill, but
yeah,
who knows?
And that's the last name of the twins. So we know them two, Westerling, Kristen Cole, and Stefan Darkling. And there's two other Kingsguard knights that are unknown to us at this time. But maybe he just realizes that if Otto were to send somebody on a secret mission, who would he send? Oh, probably the twins. So maybe maybe Cole, figured that out through deductive reaning, but that would assume he's smart.
And he is Sir Kristen after all.
So
interesting interaction here between Alicent and Sir Kristen. Where,
it seems like there's something more there. They talk about how Eric has the advantage because he knows Aegon so well.
Yep, being his personal protector.
Alicent kind of pulls Kristen close and says, I trust you and your loyalty. Aegon must be found and brought to me. So Otto's got his goons looking for him. Alicent, now has her goon and then gets Aemond. So she has two goons out looking for him. And the very fate of the Seven Kingdoms depends on it.
Yeah.
Because she, in her mind, if she can keep Rhaenyra from being murdered, she can prevent civil war.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think this is all about? So if she gets Aegon, she can initiate more diplomatic resolution to the situation, whereas if Otto gets Aegon, he can sort of tell him, we need to order a strike immediately type situation.
Yeah, I think so. So basically, as he's taking the throne, who is whispering in his ear beforehand? Because once he's installed as the king, they're both going to have access. The Hand is going to be able to whisper his advice to him. The Queen is going to be able to whisper her advice to him. Like whoever gets to it first gets, early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
Whoever gets to Aegon first kind of gets to potentially direct him on the path of kill Rhaenyra and Daemon or keep them alive and send them terms to come and, swear obeisance and fealty. So
Sir Matthew of House Repp, our friend, remember he had a different suggestion for what Otto's intention may be with Aegon.
Oh yeah. He was thinking that maybe Otto was going to kill Aegon to install Aemond. So that would be pretty wild, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. Cause he knows Aegon is a fucking fuckstick.
But as it turns out, they're, Eric and Eric's plans get intervened and we never get to see, and the key to that is what Eric tells Aegon. Says the Hand will meet you outside the city walls.
Yeah, where? There's like 7.
Yeah, King's Landing is huge. They say city walls. I was thinking castle walls. That way he can get him back in there secretly and not have Alicent know that Otto has Aegon.
Maybe that's what he meant, like the walls from the castle to the city.
But outside the city walls would mean outside of King's Landing, down by the Blackwater Rush or whatever,
Maybe like the secret pathway back into the castle.
But that, I don't know. But they said outside the city walls, not the castle walls or the Red Keep walls.
Yeah, interesting. So, maybe a script error.
Maybe. But I was like, if Otto wanted to kill him, he would probably have him brought somewhere outside the city walls.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So it's not causation, but it's correlation. I don't know.
For sure. Sure.
Who knows? But, at the end, we see him end up Aegon being installed on the throne.
Yep. Alicent ended up on. But it's this next line from Alicent to Kristen that's really interesting.
Yeah. She says, everything you feel for me, pause, as your queen. I was like, whoa. Everything you feel for me. She said that the way she said it for a reason.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying they're definitely, hooking up, but it seems like she's trying to tap into something deeper in Cole to basically motivate him that much more to we have to be successful in this mission.
I was thinking maybe also hinting at some kind of romantic reward if he completes it, you know? Everything you feel for me, I'll reciprocate if you complete this mission, you know, like type thing. Which, you know, we know she reciprocates for Laris, as we'll talk about a little later on.
I don't think we see Aemond as the scene starts.
They're sitting together, like off in the side of the room, and Alicent gets up to speak to Kristen. So Aemond's off in the background. But
he was kind of surprised to me in the scene when he says, "I'll come with you." It's like, this is the classic, "Oh, I'm coming with." And she tries to shut him down, but she says, Cole needs me. Sir Eric isn't the only one who knows Aegon's doings.
Yeah.
So
he's brought him along on his nights of debauchery.
Exactly. Little brother has some inside scoop on Aegon.
Crazy. So then it cuts to Aemond and Kristen searching King's Landing, and Aemond is talking about how Aegon has brought him to the Street of Silk, and specifically on his 13th name day. And there's a really funny line here about how it was Aegon's duty as his older brother, he said, to ensure that he was as educated as he was in the arts of of pleasure, basically. And he says, at least that's what I understood him to mean. When in reality, all he said was, time to get it wet.
Yeah, he says that, and then Kristen tries to be all holy, you know, and says, "Every woman an image of the mother to be spoken of with reverence." It's like, we just heard you, you know, use the C word on Rhaenyra like 2 episodes ago, so chill out.
Exactly. So just like Rhaenyra had said that Alicent is hiding behind a cloak of righteousness, Sir Kristen seems to be hiding behind one as well.
I mean, Kristen and Aemond have probably a pretty deep relationship. I mean, they're in the yard training all the time.
Yeah,
so
true.
You would think they have had some manly, you know, banter, some locker room talk, that obviously Aemond knows that Cole is not, you know, this holier than thou Kingsguard. I mean, he does say later, "You're a good man with no taste for depravity," but that's different than not ever even speaking, you know, crudely about, you know, women. Come on.
Right. Yeah, all the coaches participate in the locker room talk with the, with the players, like, bonding with their players for sure. So they go up to the door of the pleasure house, and Sir Kristen is doing the talking as Aemond is lurking under his hood, just like Daemon, you know, with the hood, except less pulled down over his face. And Kristen's talking about how they misplaced their drinking companion sometime last night, and he's visited this whorehouse before, so he thought maybe he might be here. And after she asks for description, he says, "Well, it's delicate, you know," and whispers, "We're seeking the Prince Aegon. And since the discretion is part of your trade here, we're hoping you'll be discreet about this." Mm-hmm. And she kind of laughs, tells him that the prince isn't there, and that he hasn't been there in years. And she glances knowingly at Aemond at this point, like, "I recognize you. I know who you are, Mr. One-Eye. He was here with you last time, so I know you guys are telling the truth and that you're really looking for the prince, because that's the same guy that was here with him." And so she says that he doesn't frequent the Street of Silk anymore, but his tastes are known to be less discriminating. But she doesn't tell them what it is that he does, because Kristen asks, like, "Oh, well, where might he be? Meaning what? Less discriminating? What does that mean?" And she just wishes him luck and wishes her best to his friend, Aemond, who's standing there. And this is a kind of a cool part. Kristen walks away, leaving Aemond standing there, and she turns and smiles at him and says, "How you've grown." And there's just a faintest flicker of a smile from Aemond.
How you've grown.
He's looking sullen, but barely flicks the corner of his mouth just raises ever so slightly before returning to its position of his neutral position, and he's just kind of and walks away. That's like his go-to line is
Yeah, he must be a fan of The Witcher.
Yeah, or of Chuck. John Casey just grunting all the time.
Nice.
All the time. Yeah, The Witcher. He's got the looks too.
Yeah, definitely. Then we get this cool shot of the back of the Iron Throne, and you see several like intact swords with the crossguard and everything.
Yeah.
They're attached to the throne, but it's like they're
facing the opposite direction.
Melted. Yeah, some of them aren't quite like melted all the way, pressed into the back of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
But then I can't remember if it zooms up over the throne or kind of around and over to the side.
I think around to the side, I think.
And we see that we hear Otto say, that Viserys had changed his mind.
And he has all the lords of the court gathered. All the lords that are already at the court, at the castle.
Right.
He's gathered to the throne room.
Yeah, some people were like, how did they gather this, lords and all this stuff, from even the close places like Duskendale and Maidenpool. And
yeah, there's no time for that.
Yeah, this has happened. This is probably like 8 or 9 a.m. that morning.
Yeah, King's Landing in this case is like a hub of activity where people come from all around the realm, sending representatives from their houses to try to enforce their political ambitions and influence the doings of the king and the queen. Yeah. So everybody has like an emissary that's stationed at King's Landing effectively. A lot of people.
The Iron Bank of Bravos, they were probably in and out. Traders from, Marine and Astapor and Lys and Myr and all these different places. There's people constantly in and out of the city and of the royal palace, wishing to treat, with the king, or the hand or, somebody, master of coin, master of laws, master of ships, to talk to them about business or what have you. So they just gathered up whoever was there in the Red Keep already and basically put them to the question.
So Caswell is there. We've seen him. He's a frequent of the King's Land, of the Red Keep. He's been chilling there for years. Every time when Rhaenyra gave birth, he greeted her on the stairway. So he was there 6 years before this, and he's still chilling. He gets when they get out of the Horsela, and Rhaenyra is introduced by Darklyn, the Kingsguard. The next person they talk to is Caswell, who's not looking happy because the king is not well. And
Otto's trying to explain the coup. He changed his mind. He admitted his wishes. It's as simple as that. And now he's forcing them to be oathbreakers. You must now, as you once swore your banners to Rhaenyra, now you must pledge them to the future king. And I still haven't been able to figure out who this first lord is, who doesn't immediately bend the knee. I must confer with my house on this matter.
He turns and starts to walk away.
Then we realize how serious Otto is. So Otto wouldn't let them remove Beesbury's body. The door remains shut until we finish our business. And here, you will not leave this room without declaring your intention.
Terrifying. He kind of slinks down the steps of the throne, too, and approaches him.
He gets closer and closer to him, just increasing the pressure to bend the knee, say yes. They know that it's say yes and bend the knee or go straight to jail right away.
Right to jail, right away.
Straight to jail. Or they may be even killed on the spot. I mean, who knows? But this lady, I think, said the house fell, who says, I am no oathbreaker. I'm pretty sure I remember the lady saying, I am no oathbreaker. And then maybe somebody else says, I will not bend the knee. It may be her.
No, it's the guy, because he turns back away as he's about to leave. He turns back towards Otto, and Otto basically is calling his bluff. Like, you're not trying to just leave the room to confer. You're trying to get out of here because you're not going to follow through with conferring at all. You're just trying to, rally your people, basically. And he's like, I'm no oathbreaker. I will not bend the knee. And I'm like, good for him. He has balls. It made me think of Team America.
I like you. You have balls. I like balls.
And so I was like, yeah, good for him. And then Otto looks around. Anyone else? And that's where the woman steps up.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And she's from House Fell. House Fell keeps its sworn oath to the princess. And I don't think in the books or the previous show, I don't think I've ever heard mention of House Fell.
Yeah, neither have I. Cool house name.
I can't recall it at all. So a new house has been introduced.
badass move. That's some big ovary energons right there. Good for her. She doesn't back down, doesn't hesitate. She just straight up tells it like it is. Like, we are keeping our oath.
Yeah. And so then at this point, I think Caswell is still standing.
Yeah.
And Otto,
he is.
Otto says very well, and the man and the Lady Fell are escorted away, straight to jail.
Right away.
And if Caswell is still standing here, why don't they escort him away too?
He hasn't vocalized specifically that he's not falling in line yet. It seems like
he hasn't bent the knee yet, but then he quickly does.
Yeah.
But we know him, and we know that he's, at least sympathetic to Rhaenyra if he doesn't outright support her claim. But as he kneels, and it's just with camera work and the actor, like, we know that he's bending the knee, but he's not really bending the knee. He's doing it to, survive, and play, what is it? Survive another, there's another phrase.
You need to play
to fight another day.
We live by another day. We live by another day.
Yes.
Yeah, something. Live to fight another day or something.
Yeah.
So he bends the knee, but obviously, tries to jet out of town here pretty quickly.
Yeah. And Larys is lurking and watching from above, and he notices that Caswell is feigning bending the knee. I think he's like, he seems hesitant.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my eye on him.
I guess he just clocks Caswell's hesitancy to immediately bend the knee like everybody else did pretty much.
Yep.
And it's like, maybe he's one we need to keep our eyes on.
Definitely. So what do you think? You think these people that are taken away by the two Kingsguard, House Fell's representative, the woman and the other man whose name we don't know, you think they're just being disappeared or what? Or you think they're being held captive to try to leverage their houses into compliance?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the way they did things, in this universe a good bit, I think was, basically, try to hold, get a captive or something.
Like a ward.
Yeah, force the rest of their family to, come to the negotiation table and, okay, the whole family come to King's Landing, bend the knee, swear fealty to the new king, and we'll release, Lady Fell, Lord, whoever it is. So that's most likely, I think, what they're doing. I mean, if they want it to be totally vicious, and they made an example out of Caswell, but they could make an example out of him too, or they could just disappear them into the black cells, never to be seen again.
Personally, I would hold them in a cell and send a raven and be like, listen, we got your lady or your fellow over here. You're going to join Team Green. Otherwise, we're going to splatter them all over King's Landing, basically.
Yeah. So it makes more sense if you're going to try to unite the realm, basically to rally forces to your claimant, you would make more use of your time and effort and energy and your hostage to get the rest of their house to cover down on the plan.
Definitely. So we get some more really good music at this point, and it cuts back to Criston Cole and Aemond as they're continuing to search. And Kristen's a little bit mad. He's like, seems like you didn't know Aegon as well as you think you did, huh? And Aemond is considering the possibilities that he could be in the hands of mercenaries. He could be on a ship to Yi Ti. He could be dead. If they have to hope that that's not the case, at least for his mother's sake. Then it cuts to Eric and Eric. Iraq and Arak. And it turns out that they are at a horrifying location.
The rat pits.
Oof. Apparently this is something from the books, basically fighting pits with little kids, which is freaking crazy. And they're inspecting a kid's teeth at first, and he's got the filed down teeth like Christopher Walken in Sleepy Hollow, where all of his teeth are pointy.
Oh, man.
And just seeing the kids fighting in the pit here, as they were getting the explanation from Eric to Eric about what's going on and who these kids are and how they make them grow their nails and fight. This scene here, it's a good thing that they included this in the book, I think, because the the picture, the image of the children fighting sort of symbolizes how the children of Rhaenyra and Alicent have been pitted against each other in a similar, less like immediately brutal way to these kids. But I'm watching the kids fighting and I'm like, that's exactly what's going on in like the main story, is that these kids have been trained to, raised to be prepared to fight each other for the throne effectively. So it was a good little microcosm of of the big picture situation, like a fractal where you zoom out and you see the same thing on a larger scale.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
So it's horrifying as these kids are like being treated like cocks or dogs and being forced to fight each other for some unknown purpose. People are betting on it. And apparently Aegon loves to come to this place, which is super fucked up. It looks like they're about 10 years old, according to Eric. Man, it's messed up. Aegon spends many nights in this place. So yeah, we do have it confirmed here that Eric is the one who has spent all the time with Aegon and knows how fucked up he is. And Eric has been unaware of all of this type of stuff, because Eric with an E is like, dude, you see now how fucked up Aegon is? Like, he enjoys this place. That's twisted. Aegon is fucked. And you've not even seen everything yet. And he points over to the side and hidden in the shadows, but in like probably like behind bars, it seemed like, as like a little boy sitting there with super light blonde hair. And Eric with an A is like, one of Aegon's bastards. And Eric is like, yeah, one of many, I'd wager. So it's crazy.
Crazy. Confirmed kids of Aegon's living in squalor in a child fighting pit.
So yeah, it's so messed up. So we learn later that, and we've seen that Aegon is like, he's craving approval and love from his parents, but like an abusive situation, he is now doing the same thing to his own kids and ignoring them. He's fathered bastards and he's left them to rot out in King's Landing, and royal blood is being probably forced to fight each other in this fighting pit for kids and stuff. And it's like, he's just perpetuating the cycle of not providing the love to the children that needs to be provided, which is horrible to learn,
Crazy, insane depravity.
And so intercut, as we continue, we start seeing Caswell preparing to try to flee the Red Keep. So at first he arrives over at the horses and he's kind of looking around like, just going to get my horse. No, nothing to see here. Then it cuts back to Aemond, and he's telling Kristen how he's a better fit to be king than Aegon. We're starting to get a little bit more insight into the dynamic between the relationship between Aegon and Aemond.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, here we are trawling the city like an ocean trying to find a freaking minnow, my brother who could be anywhere. And he calls him a wastrel, in search of a wastrel who's never taken half an interest in his birthright. 'Tis I, the younger brother, who studies history and philosophy. 'Tis I who trains with a sword, who rides the largest dragon in the world. It is I who should be, and he stops short of saying king. Mm-hmm. But everybody knows what he's thinking. And Kristen Cole kind of has to calm him down. Like, I know what it is to toil for what others are freely given. And it's this line here, toiling for what others that are freely given, which harkens back to Helena's quote. It is our fate, I think, to crave always what is given to another. If one possesses a thing, the other will take it away. So this may be foreshadowing Aemond actually intervening at some point with Aegon, potentially, because she's been right about other things, about Aemond having to close an eye. And so it's interesting. I'm really curious to see now what plays out between these two brothers.
Yeah, their dynamic is, we get to see a little bit of it as Aemond finally gets his hands on him, and they have a little tussle there in the streets. But yeah, Aemond definitely is ambitious, but also can see the writing on the wall that he's way better suited to be king than Aegon.
Way better. Aegon is just a bastard. I mean, he's got everything, the bastard blood, but he's trueborn, you know what I mean? And it's interesting here because Aemond says that, he says, I'm next in line to the throne. Should they come looking for me, I intend to be found, because they can't find Aegon. He's hiding, but he's like, me, I would stand up and I would do it. Just like how Aegon didn't want to marry Helena, but he was like, I would do it. People speculate that those kids, the twins, may not be Aegon's at all, that they may be Aemon's, which could explain how Helena seems to have insight between the two brothers wanting what the other have. But it's interesting because Aemond would not be next in line. It would be the son, one of the twins of Aegon, who would be next in line, correct? One of the infants.
Yeah, Jaehaerys boy. Or no, Jaehaerys.
Another Jaehaerys. Interesting. Yeah. So then it cuts back to Caswell, who's now atop his horse and starting to head towards the gate, hoping nobody will notice him. And then it cuts back to Eric and Eric. And Sir Eric with an E is straight up, he's saying it at this point, like something must be done. Aegon is unfit to rule. And so he's like, he is stepping out of line here as far as it's concerned, as far as his role is concerned. They're sworn to obey and to protect, but he's just being real about this. And he's got the balls to stand up for what he believes in. And he's like, dude, this is bad. We can't allow this. And Eric, his brother, is like, well, you've tolerated the prince's proclivities for years. He's like, only because it was my sworn duty. And Eric is like, it's for the king to find wisdom. We swore an oath of service until death. Like, we have no part in this discussion. Our influence is not wanted. We have no role to try to change the way that things are going to play out. And they're interrupted at this point by a woman who asks for a moment of their time. And one of them, I'm not sure which at this point, thinks she's a whore. And so she's like, you'll find no buyers for your wares here. But then she reveals what she's really there for.
I can take you to Prince Aegon. Or actually, I'm sent by one who knows where he is. Tell you for a price.
Deliver him and we'll consider your price.
And she says that her boss, she don't want to talk with any servants. Only the hand of the king.
Exalted as the servants may be. She kind of like does a little sarcastic curtsy.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
So it's interesting that she knows that, exalted servant, that's the king's guard.
Yeah, she knows exactly who they are. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So she must, she's clearly involved with the spy network, and she's been tasked to learn the faces of all these people from the Red Keep so that she can keep track of them and recognize them if she sees them.
Yeah, follow them throughout the city if needed.
Yeah, just the fact that she is able to recognize who they are shows how well-oiled and well-prepared the White Worm trains her foot soldiers, her little spiders, to be.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So she says that the White Worm, she doesn't name drop the White Worm yet, but she's saying her boss will only deal with the king and one of the twins. Impossible.
Scoffs.
And now she name drops. I think he will wish to hear what the White Worm can tell him.
Yeah. So I think
he knows. Yeah. Otto knows that name. He doesn't know who she is and has only dealt with her, I think, through proxies and, messengers and servants back and forth. The little boy that was the bagman for the money in the Daemon Rhaenyra Night on the Town. But I was kind of confused for a minute at first. I was like, how is he sitting down with the White Worm when we were thinking that she was basically, I was thinking that Massaria, the White Worm, was basically employed by Otto, but she's basically a free agent. She's an independent contractor of spies.
Mm-hmm. She probably sent information repeatedly. This comes from the White Worm. Remember that name. She gets paid over and over. And over time, having delivered accurate information, because when this happened and Otto got the information from the kid at the whorehouse, who he said, this source has never failed me before. So that indicates that there's been an ongoing relationship between these two. He probably knows her by the name the White Worm, but is unaware of her actual identity. And so now this person is saying that the White Worm actually wants to meet with the Hand of the King. And so they're like,
and knows Prince Aegon's whereabouts.
Yeah.
So it's very high stakes.
Very high stakes. Speaking of high stakes, it cuts back to Caswell, who is now legit attempting to flee the Red Keep. And the gates are opening and freedom is right in front of him. Like he can taste it.
I thought for a moment there might be a dragon sitting on the other side of the gate. That would be crazy if Rhaegar or Dreamfire or Sunfire? What's Aegon's dream?
Aegon's is Sunfire, yeah.
If one of the three, the Green's dragons was sitting on the other side of the gate and either roast him or, just growls at him and he's just like,
you want to rethink this, buddy?
Yeah. But they just snatch him off the horse.
Yeah.
Like, halt, hold the gate.
Someone realizes what's happening and they take him into custody and he's like, let go of me.
They pull him off his horse and he's like, get off me. Do you know who I am? And then we don't see Larys Strong in this scene, but this script credits him with saying he was fleeing from the gate. I guess maybe that's the next scene.
Yeah.
Okay. We hear that before, possibly, I'm not sure, before we jump
the visual
to,
cut.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
And Larys, thinks he knows what Caswell was up to. A warning for the princess, I'd wager. And then Otto tries to get him to confess. What say you? Which I love that phrase. What say you?
What say you?
Aragorn says that when he's summoning the demon army or the ghost army. I forget they have a name in the Return of the King. I summon you to fulfill your oath.
I summon you to fulfill your oath. Fight for me, and I will hold your oaths fulfilled. What say you?
What say you?
So badass.
Anyway, and here we get Larys's title, Lord Confessor.
So does that mean that is that AKA Royal Torturer?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, man. That's why he's got access to the black cells and stuff. Because remember, we were thinking he had to have some position, official position that gave him that type of background.
Access to the black cells. Yeah, access to the black cells. And also, it's an official position at King's Landing that keeps him there and not at Harrenhal.
Yeah, exactly.
His seat.
True.
The Lord Confessor presumes. So Caswell says that?
Yeah, I think so.
The Lord.
He's like, I have no love for the princess. Oh, then where were you going with such urgency? I was just going to get some ice cream.
I've got to return some videotapes.
Yeah, I would have been like, oh, yeah, I had pressing business down at the docks, or come up with some excuse, but he doesn't even.
The whole time you were getting dragged there, he didn't think of something.
Right. I was like, I wasn't urgent. I just hopped on my horse and was ready to go for a stroll.
I don't know.
I mean, they're gonna string you up anyway, but I would have tried to come up with some kind of excuse, maybe they'll buy off on it. But anyway, let the king's justice take him.
Oh God! So by the king's justice, do you think they meant Larys, or do you think they meant like the death penalty?
Yeah, I just took it to mean it's the death penalty. Like when they say "let the king's justice," because I think they use that phrase when they behead Ned.
Right.
Like you will receive
the king's justice. Yeah.
If that's like automatically death, or if that's just like let the justice system take care of him. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't really quite sure either. Cool line.
Yeah, we see him hanging the next morning as Rhaenys makes her escape.
Yeah,
but probably didn't get a trial by the jury of his peers.
Yeah, probably not. Is that a change from the books? I was under the impression that he had survived.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't gone back and looked, and since yesterday, I haven't heard anybody talk about if that is the same fate he meets in the book or not. I mean, I'm sure he dies because,
who doesn't?
Exactly. Everybody does. But I don't remember if he's hanged at the Red Keep or something else.
I'd heard somewhere that he went and joined Rhaenyra, so it may be a slight change from the books.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they made an example out of him.
Yeah, and whereas they may take the other people captive to try to sway their houses, they killed this one. So maybe the other houses can be swayed and convinced to join the Greens, but the fact that this Caswell is killed may push the Caswell house toward the Blacks.
Definitely.
So, that's pretty messed up, and he's dragged away, kicking and screaming.
They drag him out, and he's like, "Let go of me! This is not right."
Yeah,
and then he's dragged off to the hangman's noose, presumably.
Yeah,
and Otto tells Larys that he did well.
Only my duty, Lord Hand.
Only my duty. And out here, Alan is still screaming and yelling, "Who do you think you are?" And then when we learn that Otto knows that Larys and Alicent have been talking a lot lately. He spent many hours with the Queen of late. And then Larys he's like perfectly ready for this. Like he hasn't covered his tracks so much that nobody should know that he and Alicent are meeting and talking. But, he just kind of turns it around and says, I can make this work for you too.
Double agent. So
exactly.
So my question is he going to be a double agent for Otto, sneaking information for Alice from Alicent, or is he going to be a triple agent, tricking Otto into thinking he's a double agent?
He's a double agent.
Yeah, and then really doubling again.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I just wrote he's playing both Alicent and Otto.
Yeah.
So when Otto thinks he's kind of got him pinned here, it's like, what have you been doing, spending all this time with the Queen? And he's just ready to just turn it around and like, oh, I'm doing it for you. We can learn, this, and this about what the Queen's doing.
Yeah, all the information is at your disposal.
Exactly. He'll tell Otto what he thinks Otto needs to know, and he'll tell Alicent what he thinks Alicent needs to know, and he'll withhold information. I think this is what I think Larys is really up to.
Yeah, very Baelish of him.
Yeah, he'll withhold information when it'll benefit him for them not to know something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He's not loyal to anybody but himself, I don't think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although he does seem to have a thing for Alicent's feet. And if he can't get more feetsies, maybe he would be upset. He might be loyal to them stanky feet more than anything else.
Well, I mean, Otto has feet too.
Oh, God.
Maybe his tastes are less discriminating.
Yeah, clearly. Oh, man.
I think here we go to the Silent Sisters wrapping Viserys' body.
Yeah, I loved how they had those like banners sticking up on two poles from their backs.
Yeah, they were like that in the original show. As some interesting
nice
costume design.
I think George incorporated that into Elden Ring also. I seem to remember potentially characters in a video game having that similar type of thing, but I may be wrong about that. Maybe I'm just remembering Game of Thrones. But yeah, Alicent is looking positively bereft as the Silent Sisters are wrapping up Viserys. And
she's really upset.
Yeah, and this is what lends me to think that she really did love Viserys on some level. And I think that her choosing to back Aegon is out of loyalty to Viserys largely because she knows Aegon is a fuckstick, and she slapped the shit out of him last episode and knew that he was a monster for being a pedophile rapist and violating Diana. And so it's hard for me to imagine that she would willingly back him. Sure, he's her son, but I think it's that loyalty to Viserys that she really does want to fulfill his dying wish, And she looks so sad here. Really great acting by Alicent.
Olivia Cook has been really good throughout. And she was very, very good this episode, and all kind of different scenes. This upcoming scene with her and Rhaenys, she was really good. This sad scene when she wakes up in the bed and she's upset when she first learns that Viserys has died, and then here when they're preparing his body, she seems really upset.
Yeah, powerful.
She's a very, very good actress.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Rhaenys' door unlocks and in comes the Queen, And Rhaenys doesn't even wait for any kind of explanation. He sort of goes on the attack. I would do you the considerable courtesy of assuming there was a good reason for the outrage of my treatment here this morning.
My sincerest regrets for the lack of ceremony.
And they there's this pause, and they kind of look at each other, and Rhaenys basically figures out there's only one reason the keep would be. She saw people getting herded and locked down earlier, and she's locked down. It's like, oh, the king has died, and they are controlling everything, everybody's movements, controlling the flow of information. And so Rhaenys just says, the king, and you are usurping the throne. So she knows the king has died, and because of what they're doing, in the castle, she can figure out that they are. If there was just a normal, if Viserys died, and ravens would fly to every corner of the realm, to include Dragonstone,
everything would be going on normally.
Exactly. Rhaenyra would come to King's Landing, be crowned, so on and so forth.
Yep.
But all this suspicious activity is like, he has died, and y'all are up to no good.
Y'all are up to no good. That's like the first time I've ever said y'all out loud, I think.
Nice. Alicent, tries to explain to her, my husband's dying wish, and Rhaenys wants no part of this.
Yeah.
He's like,
bullshit.
Exactly. No chance, man. But Alicent is kind of pragmatic. And it's like, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter, because this is happening.
Yeah.
Aegon will be king. Like, man, that's like Rhaenys said, or no, does she? Oh, she says it right here in a second. Alicent says, I need your support, come support Aegon. And Rhaenys is like, well, I got to give it to you. You got balls.
I like balls.
Yeah, and Rhaenys, it's interesting. She went from being overlooked as queen to being pushed to the background by Corlys, who is obsessed with ambition and ignoring Rhaenys' will and desires to keep Laenor out of it and to forget the ambition of the throne. And now all of a sudden she's being courted by both sides. Rhaenyra is asking for her support. Viserys is asking for her opinion at court the prior day. Alicent is coming to her asking for her support. And that was another thing too. We didn't mention in the last podcast, but Vaemond was the only one who told her, I don't need your support, And so when it came to the court scene with where she had to choose a side, she was like, "Ooh, Vaemond, you said you didn't need me, so fuck you. But I'm going to choose the blacks."
Nice. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, so Corlys is still hurt because, we can just kind of, I guess, go into that. Alicent tries to downplay, what have the Valerians gained
by siding with Rhaenyra,
being allied with Rhaenyra this whole time.
Death, and injury.
Laena, dead, all alone in Pentos.
Oh.
Rhaenyra turned her son, into a cuck.
Yeah. Do you know where that word comes from, cuckold?
No.
It comes from the cuckoo bird, which is known to trick other species of birds into caring for their offspring by laying eggs in the nests of other birds. And then they go off and they don't have to do any of the work. And the unsuspecting, finch or whatever will.
Yeah, Robin.
Yeah.
Crazy. She says Rhaenyra's heirs, talking about the Valerian boys, the strong boys, none of her heirs are yours. And Alicent sort of speaks ill of Corlys, it's your husband who grasps so heedlessly at the throne. And we know this because of the conversations between Rhaenys and Corlys. Rhaenys tries to get him to drop it. Just leave it alone. I've given up on the Iron Throne. Let's live our life on Driftmark and be content.
Yeah, we have a castle, we have a territory.
Corlys still wants to kind of continue to press the issue. So Alicent, has the right of this, of their Corlys and Rhaenys kind of relationship.
Dynamic, yeah.
And even he has abandoned you, gone 6 long years to fight a desperate battle, returning grievously, if not mortally wounded. So Corlys, and it just one day has passed since last episode. So in the moment, I was like, right. And they said, this is what you, at the beginning of last episode, that he'll get back to Driftmark in 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
referencing.
He's
still, his fate is still unknown. I was thinking, he should be better by now. And I was like, oh no, we're in the next day. Viserys just died the night before.
6-year time jump to 2 days over 3 episodes.
Yeah. So, his fate, is still unknown. It was as far as, what's going to happen of his wound.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving the Lady of Driftmark to chart her course alone.
I loved that, how that she used like oceanic terminology for the Lady of Driftmark, since they're a seafaring house. And so she says the Lady of Driftmark chart her course alone. Yeah. Great linguistics there.
Yeah. Very, good writing. This scene is really well done. She says the words of House Valerian are not fickle. Yeah. Which is a fun, I like that word.
Yeah.
And she kind of walks off and goes over to the window, I think, here.
Yep.
And then Alicent calls her dear cousin. I was like, that she was Viserys' cousin.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of annoys me sometimes when people try to assume the relationship of, a significant other. It's like, if you're close to the person, that's fine. But Alicent and Rhaenys are not close.
It would be like she's like her cousin-in-law type of thing. So a good cousin would have applied.
I guess so. But she's just like, oh, cousin, trying to play on the familial relationship. It's
Yep.
Rhaenys and Viserys were cousins. Like, you are a Hightower from Old Town. Get out of here. Alicent tells her, more than anybody alive, what I'm about to say. And then Alicent kind of drops a bomb. And when she said this, I was like, dang, yeah. I did not think Alicent would admit this. I loved my husband, but I will speak the truth as we both know it. You should have been queen.
Rhaenys is like, what?
Golly. Yeah, Rhaenys and us were all like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
A little thought to hear such words from you. Alicent says the Iron Throne was yours by blood and by temperament.
Yeah.
So
you had the right and the character for it.
Viserys had a pretty good temperament as far as, trying to keep the peace, but he didn't have the decisiveness, I guess, to deal with things in the here and now that needed to be dealt with.
And to handle all of the various things. Like he would keep the realm peaceful, but as long as he knew there was peace, he would go to his model set. Whereas somebody else may have been more hands on deck when it comes to making sure everything's better than just peaceful. You know what I mean? That there are good living conditions and that there aren't rat pits in King's Landing with kids fighting each other.
Exactly. Trying to improve it, not just keep the status quo.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was cool that she said, obviously we know that the Iron Throne was hers by blood, but by temperament, so she was saying, she was further complimenting Rhaenys about, just how good she would have been, in that position of power.
Yep.
It's funny, her vision of Viserys would have lived his days as a country lord. I was always thinking fat country lord. Anytime they say country lord, I assume they're fat.
Lord too fat to sit a horse.
Yeah, a fat country lord, content to hunt and study his histories. But here we are.
Yeah,
Alicent kind of folds, sort of to the patriarchal system. She says, "We do not rule, but we may guide the men that do." Which later, Rhaenys, in a few minutes here, Rhaenys kind of turns around and tries to, I think, manipulate and put a little Inception kind of idea into the back of Alicent's head.
Yeah. Very
Alicent
interesting.
says they need to guide the men gently away from violence and sure destruction. And instead of doing all that,
towards
try
peace.
to push them towards peace.
It's funny because she's implying that women are the fairer sex, the more peaceful and responsible. But then, who kills the most people this episode? Rhaenys. A woman slaughters half of King's Landing. Later on.
It's a lot of people packed into that dragon pit. Boom, blows up through the floor.
So it may not be quite as simple as men bad, women good. They each have good characteristics, and there's a symbiosis that can be achieved when a man and woman work together that I think is unattainable in either in isolation, as seen with King Jaehaerys, the conciliator, and his wife, the good Queen Alysanne.
Right. I think Alicent, is this where they had kind of tussled with their hands?
Alicent was begging her, holding her hands, and Rhaenys rips her hands away.
Finally breaks free in this kind of dramatic moment and kind of walks back to the center of the room. And is just repulsed by Alicent and what she's trying to do to persuade Rhaenys over to the Greens. And she asks, "Is it in the name of peace that you've imprisoned me?" And then the key question, what of my dragon?
Yeah, I love how her mind goes right to her dragon. Like my mind would go right to my dog or like right to my bird, same way.
There's no other place to really keep them besides the dragon pit, but
the dragon mont potentially where Cyrax.
That's on.
Oh yeah.
That's on Dragonstone. But
Mm-hmm.
you could land her out in King's Landing. Remember in season 8 where there's this random like open kind of area that the Golden Company line up?
Oh yeah.
When Jon and Tyrion are about to besiege the city.
True.
There's like this open area that we've never really seen
where the Dothraki and everybody
in the big shots, and where they kill, where basically they have Missandei. Cersei has Missandei up on the battlements, and we're like, where is this open? It's like almost sandy open area,
only
like
a fool
beside
would fight
the
the
city
Dothraki
walls.
in an open field.
Exactly. But anyway, I was trying to think of a place a dragon rider could put their dragon that's not the dragon pit.
Well, she lives at
King's
Driftmark, right? So where would she normally keep it? It must stay with her at Driftmark, right?
At Driftmark, just
somewhere
hanging out, like over there where Vhagar was, in the sand dunes.
Yeah, just chilling.
But I wouldn't want to leave my dragon locked up in the dragon pit.
Hell no.
At the whims of whoever controls the dragon pit.
Right.
Basically, House Hightower.
Right. Especially if you're not on their team.
Yeah, like you came here to hear Vaemond and his petition for the succession of Driftmark. And turns out Viserys came in and kind of saved the day because the Hightowers had it all planned out. But anyway, all that to say, I wouldn't leave my dragon in the dragon anywhere I couldn't easily get to it. I just tell her to sit up top of the Red Keep and just stay. It's the Valyrian word for stay. Stay put.
Yeah.
But she's immediately like, what of my dragon? So Alicent is kind of doing the tactical, dragon math of, war. If we're overmatched, Rhaenyra will be tempted to strike us and war will ensue. But without your dragon, Rhaenyra may be, persuaded to negotiate. So they're basically using Meleys as, a hostage, sort of like we were trying to figure out the lords and ladies of the court, what they would do with them. It's like they're keeping their dragon as a hostage. So it's one less dragon that they're in the Green's possession, and they are going to hold on to it so that it doesn't go over to Rhaenyra's side of the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about, the Blacks lost Vhagar to the Greens.
Yeah, brutal.
So they're trying to prevent that, which is a good tactic on the Greens' part.
Definitely.
To control the dragons, especially a big dragon with a very experienced rider.
Very experienced. Decades.
Meleys and Rhaenys.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to, use that to get Rhaenyra to the negotiation table.
Yep.
And she promises her Driftmark, but it's never a good negotiation tactic. It's never a good negotiation tactic to promise something that somebody already has. If you want Driftmark, you can have it. It's like, Rhaenys has been sitting in the Driftwood thrones the last 6 years that Corlys has been gone. It's like, what are you talking about? I get it. She's saying once the Greens are in power and the war is over, they'll leave her alone and she can have Driftmark. But it's like, she already has Driftmark, and they have Meleys. Seasmoke's somewhere. He's without a rider. And Baela has her dragon.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of hers either.
I have to look it up. So anyway, Rhaena. One of them. Rhaena, I think Rhaena doesn't have one and Baela does. Anyway, it's pretty interesting that the dragons, they're already figuring out, if it comes to war, who has what dragons and what's going to happen. And she promises her Driftmark, and then she can pass it down to her granddaughters.
Rainey's overall seems impressed with how astute Alicent is regarding the overall dynamics of this whole thing, the dragons, the leverage and various things. And she's like, you are wiser than I believed you to be. Kind of like gives her the up and down look, Alicent.
And then she calls her. Yeah, she calls her by her last name. It's like, you've been married to Viserys Targaryen this whole time, so people may think of you as Alicent Targaryen, but you are Alicent Hightower.
Good point.
You've been wearing these green dresses every day, all day, since the wedding feast, and you are Alicent Hightower.
Like, you come in here pretending to be my family, leveraging me, like you're better than I thought you would be. But you're still a high tower.
Exactly. And Alicent tries to say, you know, oh, a true queen counts the cost to her people.
Which is true. It shows how she's got the right mindset for a leader.
Yeah, you know, she's thinking about, you know, if war breaks out, you know, what's it it's going to cost, you know, when the high lords and ladies, you know, play their Game of Thrones, it's the small folk who die. But Rhaenys, you know, tells her, is like, yeah, but you still toil in this patriarchal system. You're still serving Otto and Aegon. And even Kristen Cole. I mean, Kristen Cole serves her, but they're the ones, through this whole system.
Great net line, the next line.
Yeah, absolutely. It says, Rhaenys tells her, you don't desire to be free. You just want to make a window in the wall of your prison.
Oh,
I was like,
man.
I love that line.
Wow.
That may be one of my favorite lines of this episode.
And the next line, like, this totally changed the direction of this.
She kind of Rhaenys gets really close to Alicent and just literally whispers in her ear.
Have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne?
Have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne? And Alicent is like, Alicent's like,
look of sorrow and speechlessness.
She's like, no, but maybe I should, but that's bad. But it seems like there's like 10 different thoughts race across her mind and across her face in a span of, you know, half a second. She's like, yes, no, maybe, I'm going to leave you. I thought Alicent sort of projected here. I'm going to leave you alone to your thoughts. That's like, Alicent was going to be alone with her thoughts too.
Yeah, seriously.
And then this turned out to be a really ominous salutation. Ring the bell when you have an answer.
Yeah, definitely. And so that was interesting. Have you ever considered yourself on the Iron Throne? Potentially. So we know that she's like planting the seeds of mutiny, like Corlys said to Vaemond at the Stepstones. She's planting little seeds that could fracture the Greens. You know, we have Aemond, who's jealous of Aegon, and there could be conflict there. And now she's saying to Alicent, like, even you could sit the throne. Wouldn't you want that? Like, how have you not been considering that? You have to be, right? Think about it. You could sit the Iron Throne. And that's like another way that the Greens could be divided and begin infighting if for some reason she was like, you know what? You're right. I am going to take the throne for myself. So that's a possibility moving forward. Although it doesn't happen by the end of this episode when things are kind of settled to one degree or another.
Yeah, but I mean, she says, she has the temperament and thought process of, you know, counting the cost of her people, you know, more than, you know, most rulers do. She's obviously way better fitted than Aegon would be. Aemond is still, you know, pretty young and inexperienced in the ways of the world. What does Dany say? Young and inexperienced in the ways of war?
Yeah, I think so.
Or of the world? I can't remember.
She says it constantly in the books. And it's so funny, dude. Roy Dotrice, at first he does like a kind of a normal voice for the narrator for the audiobooks for Daenerys in book 1 and 2. But then like there was a gap between recording book 2 and 3 or something. And so he comes back and he does like a little Irish voice for Daenerys. I may only be a young girl without knowing the ways of war.
So funny. R.I.P. man. R.I.P. Roy Dotrice. Yeah. He was so awesome.
Pyromancer Helene. Rest
OG.
Peace,
he was going to be, who's he going to be? He's going to be Grand Maester Pycelle, I think.
Yeah, he was in the originally running for Pycelle. Yep. Yeah.
But at least he got in the show with Grand Maester. What'd you say?
Pyromancer Helene.
Yeah, there's a name for those guys. Wisdom?
Oh, yeah.
Wisdom Helene. Yeah. Like, that's their title. The pyromancers are called wisdoms.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
Wizards for Gandalf and Saruman and Lord of the Rings. But
badass. Don't have dragonfire. Wildfire is the next best thing, right?
Exactly. I wonder if that ever comes into play in the dance. I don't remember it, but who knows?
Speaking of women slaughtering citizens, you know, Cersei blowing up the Sept.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so next it cuts to Kristen and Aemond as they arrive and spy Eric and Otto, and Eric meeting with Missaria, and Kristen turns to Aemond and says, "My prince, we found them." He doesn't say we found them, he just says, "My prince."
And they see Otto and the White Worm and the twins sitting down and talking business.
Yeah, dude, this is such a crazy scene. The Otto's wearing his hood, and everybody's all in their stealth garb. And beautiful Missaria sits down, looking all regal and nicely dressed and everything, and with their head tilted back in a power pose. And Otto's like, "You yourself are the mysterious White Worm, I take it? Or are you simply a further peel in this stinking onion?" Another great line there. And dude, her first line to him just blows him away. She's like, "My condolences on the passing of your king." And he's like, "Oh my God, like
what?"
Yeah,
he has tried so hard to lock down everybody and everything in the Red Keep to keep this from getting out.
Yep.
And she just hits him with the facts like, "I know your secret. Sorry, the king is dead." And he's like, and he don't have much of a giveaway. He's like,
yeah,
you can tell he's like,
deer in the headlights.
Oh,
how did she possibly know?
How does she know?
Could you know? And this simple sentence is enough to let him know that she's for real, and he signals for the cash. And one of the
he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and pay the lady.
It's her. Come on, yeah, pay the lady." Yeah, so one of the twins brings over the cash, and he gets down to business. "Where is Prince Aegon?" People were speculating about her accent before, wondering if it's French or what it is, but I think it's like their own creation for like some, far off Planetos accent, because I can't think of anything either, but I think I really liked it in this scene as opposed to her conversation with Daemon in episode 2 or whatever it was when the accent seemed kind of awkward. I thought in this scene it was very effective and mysterious and made her seem powerful and exotic. And she tells him that the prince was in Flea Bottom, where no one is to be trusted, and she thought it would be best to secrete him away somewhere safe in case they come looking for him. And he's like, "Where?" And he's safely tucked away. And then she gets down to business on her end. "I want an end to the savage use of children in Flea Bottom. They're forced to fight, and worse, your gold cloaks take the bribes given to them to look away, an obscenity either tolerated or ignored by the crown." And he's like, "I'll look into it. You have my word." And she further presses him. "When your plots ripen and you install your grandson on the throne, remember it was me who put him there. I could have killed him as easily as a wasp on fruit." And then my favorite line of the whole episode right here.
Yeah,
"There is no power but what the people allow you to take." And I was like, yes! Just like that, Missaria becomes the best character on this whole show. A check against the powers that be, advocating for the small folks, a voice for justice and decency in King's Landing, and a reminder that governments only have the power that we, the people, allow you to have. And I was like, yes, like I fist pumped at this.
Missaria for Queen. Queen Missaria.
Yeah.
Missaria 2024.
So awesome. I was like, yes, dude.
Love it.
You just killed it. And Otto's like, "I will remember." Like, you're goddamn right, you will, because she's powerful. She knows things. Yeah. She has the ability to snatch people up. You better remember, and you better respect her, because if you don't, she could probably have you killed. You're only breathing because she is letting you. Yeah. It seems like.
And Aegon, the crown prince, is only breathing because she allowed it.
Yeah, but she has people in the keep. Her spiders are slinking around. Everybody's at danger if Missaria is angered. So you've got to keep her in a good mood.
I was sort of wondering when Otto says, "I will remember," if he meant that
the North
in a good
remembers.
way or a bad way.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like,
he could be like, "I remember."
I'll remember. It's like, okay, this lady is dangerous. Yeah. She needs to be dealt with.
I'm gonna have to take action.
I will remember it, and we can continue to work together.
We'll
see.
Very good read on that. Interesting question. So instantaneously, Missaria is now one of the most powerful people in the Seven Kingdoms, with leverage over the hand and the crown, which is pretty hardcore. and they're in her debt for recovering the prince. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Oh, did we talk about Jaehaerys' crown and where they're wrapping up Viserys' body and Alicent is crying?
I don't think we talked about that. No.
After they finish wrapping up Viserys' body, Alicent brings the crown that Viserys wore, his entire reign, the golden crown that has the different sigils from the Lords Paramount all around it.
Pretty badass.
And that was the originally Jaehaerys got that crown. I don't remember how he came to possess it, if it was a gift or what, the history of it. But obviously, Otto and Alicent choose to crown Aegon with the Conqueror's crown. So Jaehaerys' crown is exactly to show exude power. Blackfire, the Aegon sword, is black and ruby crown. But here, Alicent places Viserys and Jaehaerys' crown, the golden crown, on Viserys' body, and that's the last we see of it. So I'm interested to see what becomes of Viserys' crown.
Yeah. Very interesting. I got a feeling I'll see it again, though.
So after Otto and Mysaaria's little sit-down chat, I think we find ourselves in the Great Sept, I think is the name, because the Sept of Baelor is not a thing yet.
Yeah,
I think it's just called the Great Sept.
It's freaking gigantic. It makes St. Peter's Basilica look tiny.
Yeah, and the Eric twins are just kind of looking around. So obviously they've been sent here without specific instructions. Mysaria probably said something, just kind of vague. It's like, go look in the Sept.
You will find him in the center of the Sept.
Right. Or something kind of cryptic and puzzling like that. And so they're here kind of on the hunt, and they hear a cough. And it's like, oh, listen.
And the Sept is completely empty. Where are all the people?
Yeah, they're being rounded up. Well, I guess this is the previous day.
Oh, yeah,
so they're
true.
not being rounded up. So it's the next morning where they all get rounded up and forced to, you will go to the dragon pit and you will witness. What if I really gotta pee, man. I got a doctor's appointment. No,
gotta get that goiter checked.
So they realize that he must be under this plinth or some kind of altar kind of a thing.
Central altar type thing.
And so I thought it funny that both of them reached inside to pull him out instead of the little trap door is pretty small. And instead of one of them just grabbing him, they both kind of stick the top half of their body in there and pull him out. And they pull him out kicking and screaming.
They're twins. They do everything together, right?
Yeah.
Watch out, ladies.
Hey. So they pull him out and he's like, where's the white worm? Which I thought was an odd first statement. So I guess maybe he worked.
He seems to know that he was taken into her custody for protection. And she was right. Her people were like, the white worm sent me to get you. We're going to keep you safe and hide you in the Sept because it's the perfect place for Aegon to hide because it's the last place on earth he would ever go. you know? So it's like
definitely
great place to be.
Eric said, she sold you for a price. And his had a funny response. Why did you pay it? He just wants to be left alone.
Well, not only that, but by saying, why did you pay it? He's like, why would you guys want me to be king? Like, what the hell? I'm fucked in the head. He's total lunatic. And so he's like, why? Why would you do that?
Why have you paid it?
Yeah. Hilarious line.
And then his mommy issues surface. I want my mother.
I want my mother. Your grandfather, the Hand, will meet you outside the city walls.
A very interesting line here. What was Otto's plan?
Yeah, what was his plan?
He told Eric, bring him only to me, and you mustn't tell no one, not even the queen. Mm-hmm. So what was the plan outside the city walls? That's sort of mysterious.
Outside the city walls, like you were saying, it was not outside the Red Keep. It's outside the city. Was he going to have a ship with some gold and be like, get the hell out of here or we'll kill you? So because we want to crown Aemond, or what was the plan?
I don't know.
It's pretty interesting.
In the small council, when they reveal that there's this long laid plot, do they specifically name?
They do not.
Do any of the conspirators name Aegon?
They just said, "Oh, now we can proceed with the king's blessing." So that could,
with the full assurance, yeah.
Yeah, it could mean that Alicent's line is now they got the blessing for Alicent's line. It doesn't necessarily mean that they want Aegon to be crowned. It could mean like, if something happens to Aegon. But then again, Otto maybe wants to meet him outside the city walls to sneak him in somehow so that he can get him into the castle stealthily, and so that he can say, we need to attack Rhaenyra because they're going to try to fight, which is what Alicent is trying to prevent. She gives him counsel. Your grandfather will tell you to strike, but you must ignore this counsel, when they're in the wheelhouse, the litter, the horsela.
The horsela. So, Aegon kind of takes off running here, and then one of the twins grab him, and he says, you flee what other men, I think so, you flee what other men die seeking.
Yeah, really cool line.
He's just showing over and over again. He doesn't want this. He knows he's not suited for it.
Other men would kill for it.
Yeah, so many people want the throne. I mean, the whole original series is, vying for power and to get the throne. Then they kind of wrestle him, out the front of the sept, and they're met on the steps by the other duo.
Yeah.
The other buddy cop team up adventure pair.
Crispin Cunt pops up out of nowhere. I truly regret this.
So Kristen Cole, I didn't really comment on his disguise. His little hat that's sort of like a, I don't know, Henry VIII, that kind of little hat that kind of has a little poof on it. I don't know. It looked pretty silly.
You sent me the meme, though, where it said these people cosplaying their heroes, and it was like Kristen Cole was wearing a similar hat to Rhaenyra when Rhaenyra and Daemon had gone on their nighttime excursion, and Aemond here was wearing a similar cloak to Daemon. So they're like the person that they're obsessed with. Each one is kind of modeling them.
Yeah, definitely cosplaying their heroes that they're so obsessed with.
Yeah,
can't get over him. I was listening to another podcast, and they were thinking the opposite, that Auric with an A.
They're wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Eric. This is Eric with an E. I'm pretty sure that is,
Eric is the one that goes black and never goes back.
Actually, yeah. So Auric is the one sword fighting, crossing swords with Cole.
Yep, because he's still loyal to Aegon at this point.
Right. Eric still just stays up on the top step of the sept and is like, yeah, I'm good.
He's like, have fun. Yeah. He abandons his brother. That's hardcore.
That's crazy. In the middle of a sword fight between him and Kristen Cole.
Yeah, he was like a renowned warrior. 2-on-1, they probably could have taken him, but he was like, I'll just leave you to die.
Absolutely. So then this leaves Aemond free to pursue Aegon because, the two Kingsguard kind of take care of each other. And, I guess Aemond realizes that the other Kingsguard isn't going to participate. So he's like, okay, Cole can handle Auric, so I'm going to go chase down Aegon.
Yeah, and so Aegon and Aemond both go scampering down the stairs from opposite sides, and Aemond catches up to him and tackles him, and he's like, got him pinned down on the ground.
Yeah. And Aemond, has a moment of honesty with his brother. I was hoping you disappeared.
Yep, because he wants that crown, baby.
And Aegon is just giddy in this, I guess he realizes he's caught and he's not going to escape, his fate of becoming king. So he's just kind of giddy and, playful almost with Aemond, his little brother, quote unquote little.
He says, is our father truly dead?
Is our father truly dead?
He might just be excited that Viserys is dead because Viserys never respected him. And it seems like, remember when they're at the court hearing where they're deciding who is going to be heir to Driftmark? It was like as soon as his mother got outdone by Rhaenyra, he was laughing about it. He seems to laugh and think it's funny whenever somebody gets the better of his parents, basically.
Yeah. So it's probably just his mommy and daddy issues. Anytime somebody hits them with a zinger or whatever, he kind of strikes him as funny.
Yeah.
Aemond tells him, "Yep, father's truly dead, and they're going to make you king." Then Aegon spits in his one good eye. It's like, how dirty a move is it to spit in the eye of a one-eyed man.
Dude, spitting, yeah, that's super dirty. And if you spit in, spitting in somebody's face is like a declaration of war. Like if you spit in my face, I'm going to rip your throat out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it's the worst. So Aegon, does he run off again or does he choke him some more right here? I can't remember. Aegon says no.
He lifts him to his feet. And it cuts back to Eric and to Kristen, and he's like, Kristen's like, "Where's your brother?" You know, and he's long gone. And the two of them both also run down the stairs from opposite sides and start clashing again. And it cuts to a really cool shot of a some bystanders who all of a sudden are like, "Oh my God," as these guys are clashing with swords right next to him, and it pans over to the sword fight. We see that Eric has abandoned Eric. Then
the brothers kind of clash some more. Aegon saying, "Let me go. I don't want to rule. I have no taste. I'm not suited." And Aemon is like, "You're right, man. I can't argue with that. You are definitely not suited." Yep. And there's an interesting moment here. Aegon says, "Let me go. I'll find a ship and I'll never be seen again." And there's this pause before Cole, comes up behind Aegon. And if it was just left to Aemon in this moment, I think he would quickly escort Aegon down to the harbor, put him on a ship, and watch him sail away.
Agreed.
But Cole's here.
And Aegon knows it too. He's like, hold him by the face, like, "You just let me go." And then
let me go.
Kristen slinks up, and oh man, when he disarmed Eric, right, and made him drop his sword, he picks up the sword and he has like the smuggest look on his face.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to wring Kristen's neck.
Yeah, super smug.
He's the worst.
And he comes up behind Aegon, and the queen awaits.
Oof. And then it cuts to Alicent meeting with Otto, and Otto is like, well played. And she says, "None of this is a game," which is like a Game of Thrones, like it really is, which is kind of a funny thing. And he's like, "Oh, well, you treat it like a game, and whatever our difference is, our hearts remain as one. It's the good of the family that we both desire." And this is Alicent finally standing up for herself and standing up to her father. Remember her conversation with Rhaenys earlier? She's like, "You still just obey men, your father, your husband, your son." Like,
yep.
And so finally Alicent is standing up for herself, and the seed that Rhaenys planted about her wanting to sit the throne hasn't sprouted, but the seed of that she's planted to try to divide Otto and Alicent is starting to sprout, and Alicent is stepping up for herself and confronting her father head on in this situation, which is really awesome. She's like, she tells him that our hearts were never one, and that she sees that now, and she's just been a piece on the board that Otto's been moving around, and he's like, "Well, if that's true, then that means I made you queen, right?" So he's basically admitting it. That's saying like it's true.
Yeah.
Would you have desired the crown otherwise? And she's like, "How would I even know? The only things I've ever wanted are the things that you have imprinted on me to want. And now the debt comes due. The debt that you're happy enough to pay, slaughtering Rhaenyra and Daemon." And he's like, "It's a sacrifice for the stability of the realm. No king has lived that hasn't had to forfeit the lives of a few to protect the many. That's some Machiavellian ends justifying the means type stuff." And he's like, "Though I understand your squeamishness," and this is a great line here, "reluctance to murder is not a weakness." And she's like, takes control. She's like, "I have Aegon now, and we're going to proceed as I see fit." Sticking it to him. We're going to send Rhaenyra and Daemon terms that they can accept without shame. True terms. And Otto is like, "Dude, this is not good. This is going to mean war. If she survives, her banners will mass behind her, and they'll be ready to fight, basically." And Alicent's just not having it. She goes through a list of things that are going to happen from here on out. She's like, Kristen Cole will be Lord Commander. Aegon will be anointed tomorrow. The whole of King's Landing has to witness, as we see they're all funneled toward the dragon pit coming up. We're going to bring in the Conqueror's sword and crown to send a signal of strength.
Yeah, just you have to project the conqueror's name, the conqueror's crown, the conqueror's sword.
Yeah, there you go.
They have to exude strength right now. Rhaenyra's going to fight either way, but to get the people and to get as many houses as they can to follow Aegon, the newly anointed and crowned king, they have to project strength. So that's what they're doing in every single way.
Definitely. And it's like a you are beaten moment.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist.
Where Otto is just like, he gives up and he's just like, you look so much like your mother in certain lights. And Alicent is disgusted by this. She seems to be just generally creeped out by any male sexuality at this point, after having gone through everything and dealing with Larys, as we'll talk about a bit later. And this is kind of there's sort of a creepy sexual undertone to Otto's remark here, like saying something, comparing you to your mother. It's like he loved your mother. He was attracted to your mother, probably. And so that's kind of weird. But it made me think also, was his wife... It sort of implied to me that his wife was probably the only other woman on the planet who could win an argument against him and boss him around and put him in his place. He's
exactly.
Like, wow.
Somebody that would put him in his place, that would tell him, give him the business, about whatever the situation was. And that he couldn't just dismiss them. As Hand, he has a lot of power to, if somebody's in his way, he'll just crush them. But, his daughter, he cares about her, at least a little bit. But mainly though, he cares about power, and he's installed his daughter as queen. He's about to install his grandson as, to usurp the throne. So nobody really stands in Otto's way. That's why he didn't like Daemon, because Daemon is a rogue and won't do the wise, sage, conventional wisdom that Otto would have, the advice that he would have put forth.
Daemon!
So now that Alicent has won this, victory, in who's going to have Aegon and who's going to control how Rhaenyra and Daemon are dealt with, Alicent has won this, and she's given him the business and these are going to be the terms. This is what we're going to do. And she closes the door and, he says, as you wish. But yeah, I think because she is putting him in his place, he's like, oh man, she's just like her mom.
I think he was pretty impressed too by it, And,
he got beat, his set of goons got beat by Alicent and her set of goons, but still the main thing is they found the prince and he's in custody and he's going to be anointed and crowned the next day. So all the details about what's going to happen outside of that are kind of what they're fighting over.
Yeah.
But, he got beat, but he's still impressed that his daughter, sort of like his scene with Alicent after she came at Rhaenyra with the dagger, she thought she was going to be in trouble. But Otto's like, mad respect. I see you have the determination.
Yeah.
I see you have the determination to win, this Game of Thrones. So he is definitely impressed.
Yeah. And so he reluctantly accepts that she's in control of the situation and he's bitch made. Oh man. So then it cuts to the scene with Larys, and Alicent is arriving back at her chamber and Larys is lurking in the background waiting for her. And it doesn't seem like she even notices him at first. She goes to pour herself some wine.
Yeah.
And from the background, Your Grace, and it's Larys lurking. And she's like, the hour is late, Lord Larys. Like, please just leave me alone. But he tells her, I think I've found something out that you should know. Have you asked yourself, I wonder, how is it that your father, the Hand, found Aegon first? And I totally missed this on the first watch, but at this point he sits back creepily in his chair and glares at her intimidatingly.
He gets oddly comfortable. So obviously this is an ongoing thing that they have.
He looks at her like, you know what you got to do if you want answers. You know how to get them. Take them shoes off.
We're doing the thing.
Yeah. And she looks down at the floor in disgust at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, you want me to take off my shoes again? And it seems like it's happened before, and it seems like she's being forced to do it. So it's like awkwardly uncomfortable as she's being manipulated and has to surrender her will to Laris to learn the facts here. Man, it's so creepy. It's so creepy.
And like he gives her little pieces, all through the conversation.
Yep.
A web of spies is at work in the Red Keep, and our business, travels along this web. And then he kind of tells the tale on Otto. He says, "Your father knows that this web is out there and exists, but he's left it in place more than once. Proved advantageous to those willing to feed the weaver."
Feed the weaver.
The spider.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, she asked him a question, give me some more.
Yeah, she says, "And this weaver watches me?" Asking him. And
asking for some more information. And he just sits there for a minute, and she's like,
looks down at her feet again. Like, you, next step.
Is this where she takes the shoe off or the stocking? I can't remember.
This is where she takes the stockings off.
Oh, so, it's really getting serious.
Yeah, he's like, "Want more?" He goes, and then looks down at her feet like, "Oh, I could remember if you strip to the next level."
Oh, man.
More feet
Laris tells him that your lady in waiting, Talia, is one of the spiders.
Busted.
Talia's busted. But she's already in jail. They already put her in jail, but
true.
He says there are even more like her, and even Laris doesn't know how many. So that was an interesting detail to learn.
Yeah, anybody could be a Cylon. Oh, nope, that's Battlestar Galactica. Anybody could be a spider.
And then, does she do something else before he talks about there's one way to destroy his advantage?
I don't think so.
I think it's at the end where she finally kind of turns and puts her feet up on the couch and turns away.
Yep.
Oh, total disgust.
Yeah, he continues here telling her that, the only way to destroy his advantage is to take out the head of the weaver, basically. And he uses a metaphor like a beehive metaphor, saying when the queen dies, the bees fly without purpose. And he's begging your pardon for the turn of phrase, your grace, because he's talking to the queen.
Yeah, like you can't talk about the queen dying in front of the queen, even in your metaphor. That's funny.
So funny. And so she's like, and this falls within your wheelhouse. Like this is something you can handle. And he's like, if you wish, it could be done. And I think signifying that she wants it to be done, she like goes to the next level of the foot fetish thing and turns this on. Yeah.
Gives them the full view of the feet.
Yeah, and he like reaches into underneath his cloak and starts pulling on his thing, and it cuts back to so creepy, just staring at the feet. And it cuts back to Alicent as she turns her head away, and she's just like disgusted by the whole situation. Yeah, but like Cersei, she's doing what she's got to do to get the answers that she needs and whatnot. Or like Sansa, I mean.
Right, but obviously, he's got this weird foot thing, but he does it he has subjugated the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms to his perverse, will to play his little game.
Yeah, it's got to be a combination of those two.
Yeah. And like I said, he don't really care whether she knows all the information or not, or if Otto knows all the information or not. He's just playing things to his advantage.
Yep.
And obviously this is his little, kinky thing he likes. And he hadn't gotten some head maiden, to be weird with him. This is the queen.
Yeah, he's like getting off on the feet and the domination at the same time.
Yeah, and her position and how he has positioned himself, with this whole Harrenhal plot to kind of have her under his thumb.
Yeah, and it's interesting the dynamic change. Like Otto is taken down a peg, but Laris goes up a peg and seems to be elevating himself above the queen. And so interestingly, we have like the White Worm elevating herself above Otto, and then we have Laris elevating himself above the queen. So those could be like two factions that are going to be sort of battling it out.
Definitely.
Each one, Otto and the queen, in debt of their spy master, the White Worm and Laris. That'll be really interesting going forward to see how that plays out. So then the morning arrives, and we see each of the main players on the greens as the sun is still hovering just beneath the horizon. We're starting to get a little bit of light, but Aegon is just chilling out, eating some chicken or something. Otto is standing, looking out of the window nervously. Aemond is sitting in a chair, contemplating everything. And Alicent is standing by a brazier, looking all nervous. And Rhaenys sits in the dark as well. But all of a sudden there's a commotion in the background, and it's Eric, out of the way,
out of my way.
grunting, yeah. And he's taking advantage of the moment. There must have been just a brief time period where he can get to the princess and free her. And it's interesting because he goes through the main door to get her here, right? Out of my way. He has to push somebody out of the way. But then he exits with her through the secret tunnels. So why didn't he just take the secret tunnels to enter her room?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's not any to wherever they're holding Rhaenys.
Well, there must. Oh, yeah, true. He somehow gets her into the secret tunnels, right? Maybe there's no entrance into that particular room, but it seems like Rhaenys was unaware of these tunnels, right? Because he's leading the way. He must have gone through the secret tunnels with Aegon in Knights of Debauchery. Aegon leading the way, bringing his protector with him as they exit into King's Landing. But Rhaenys seems unfamiliar with the passages as they get down into the chamber where Balerion's skull is, and she pauses like, holy, it's Balerion, you know? And she I love that she stops dead in her tracks, and there's just like a brief moment of reverence where she's looking at Balerion and absorbing that this is where his skull has been this whole time. Man, imagine how big his pelvis must be. Where is that?
Yeah. Where's the rest of his skeleton? And this is the way they shot this scene is really, again, we see the scope and the scale of a tiny human versus just the head of Balerion the Black Dread. And Vhagar is huge, but I want to see Balerion live and in action one day.
Colossal.
Hopefully we'll get the conquest.
Yeah, if we do, I sent you guys that meme of some fan art that took Henry Cavill and put him in Daemon's armor with black fire and the cat's paw dagger, Aegon's dagger, and Aegon's crown, and he looked awesome as Aegon the Conqueror. It would be great to get Henry Cavill.
Pretty epic casting for sure.
It'd be so cool.
So Rhaenys' mom was Jocelyn Baratheon. So I can't remember it. Rhaenys may have grown up at Storm's End. Well, although if her mom was Baratheon, then her father was
Jaehaerys.
Was Jaehaerys. She and Viserys are Jaehaerys grandkids.
Oh,
so
right,
whoever her dad was. So I was thinking, but if Rhaenys' mom was Baratheon and father was Targaryen, she probably did grow up in King's Landing. I was thinking if she grew up in Storm's End, then she probably almost never had the chance to use or see any of the secret passageways or to see the bottom of the Red Keep where they keep Balerion.
It's interesting, though, because Rhaenyra had not seen them either until Daemon showed her. And so Rhaenys didn't see them, Rhaenyra didn't see them, but both Daemon and Aegon were familiar with the passages, quite apparently. And as Eric shows up to save her, he says an important line: "I cannot let this treachery stand." And yeah, they must enter the secret passages elsewhere, because before they get in the secret passages, they pass Caswell, who's hanging in the map room or something, and he's been executed, met the king's justice, so that sucks. And they exit, and Rhaenys is like, "Where are we?" as they get down to the battlements, and he's like, "Just south of King's Way." So this seems to exit into King's Landing, apparently.
Yeah, he said they're just south of the King's Way.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So then at this point, he's like, "The Black Order's this way. We got to go." And at this point, it cuts to the White Worm's villa, which we saw at the end of last episode when Talia went to inform her of the goings-on. And this time, it's up in flames. It's engulfed. And flames are just pouring out the windows. Too bad, because it's a beautiful looking place. Clearly one of the nicest places in King's Landing. And I was wondering at this point, will she think it's Otto, who she just revealed herself to? Does she think he's trying to take her out because she was trying to leverage him? Will she retaliate? So this could end up dividing Otto and the White Worm in theory, which would cancel out my idea of White Worm and Otto versus Alicent and Larys. But who knows? I'm curious to see what happens as a result of this. How will the white worm react? She has people inside the keep. She could be dropping poison in cups. Like, she's dangerous as hell, dude. She's terrifying.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rhaenys grew up on Dragonstone.
Oh, wow. All right. So yeah, that could explain that. And they get down to the streets, and Rhaenys tells Eric, I won't leave Melees. And I love this, the loyalty between, a dragon rider and their dragon. One of the first things on her mind is always Melees. And I mean, I guess it could just be for the nuclear factor. So she's saying that she wants to get to the dragon pit, and he's like, no way, they'll expect you there. Plus you won't get past the gates. It's ridiculous. Come on, we got to get to the riverfront and find a ship. So he's got like a really half-baked plan. He doesn't have a ship. He's just like, we got to get out of here. This is our best bet. And before they can really figure out what's going on, all of a sudden everybody's being funneled in one direction, and gold cloaks are just pushing all the small folk through the alleys, and they're like, holy crap, they're just caught in like a sea of people. Mm-hmm. And they're being funneled to the dragon pit like sheep to the slaughter. And we even see a few sheep being pushed around too, just to really hammer that home.
Pretty poetic.
Yeah. And before they know it, they're separated just by the sheer mass of people. And Rhaenys is further ahead from Eric, and he's shouting for people to get out of the way. And the bells are tolling, and he's unable to catch up with her. And then it cuts to Alicent and Aegon, who are riding in a litter, or as the Gold Cloak call it, a wheelhouse. They're shouting at him, make way for the royal wheelhouse. And they're talking, and we had this similar shot in the episode with the Hunt back in the day, so long ago at this point, where Viserys is sitting on the left, where Aegon is sitting now, and Rhaenyra and Alicent were both sitting on the right. So it's like, oh man, you can see like how things have changed since that time. Same camera angle and everything. And they're discussing about what's going on and how Aegon sees right through this. Alicent tells him, no, it was his last dying wish that that you should be the king. And he's like, bullshit. My father never wanted this. He had 20 years to name me heir. He never did. He upheld Rhaenyra's claim. He could have changed his mind, but he didn't, because he didn't like me. And which is true, probably, because he's a little shitbag. He knows the truth. There's zero chance of this being true, that in his final breath, he whispered that Aegon should take the throne. Nope. And so she pulls out the dagger and opens up a box, and he's like, do not toy with me, mother. And yeah,
it's like only at this point does he take her seriously. Yeah. I mean, he's got on his best black outfit with his kind of gold dragon on it.
Tight.
And he's got his cape, he's got his gloves. I don't know if he has them on here, but at the coronation he has on his gloves, and he's in the horsela, being spirited to the dragon pit, and he still doesn't take it serious. Like, it's whether you take it seriously or not, dude, it's happening.
Yeah.
He doesn't it's almost like he doesn't comprehend that it's really happening until she shows him that dagger.
I had a different read on this. I thought like he knows it's happening, but when he sees the dagger, he, for a moment, begins to take seriously her claim that it was Aegon's wish. And the dagger to him, in my eyes, represented like a gesture of love from his father, something that he hasn't felt in forever, because they've been at odds, and Viserys knows he's a shitbag, like I said. So he sees the dagger, and he's like, oh, my father really did want me to do this and appreciates me and loves me. And so that's what I thought at this moment. And then she's telling him, he picks up the dagger like it's the first, time his father's ever loved him. And he's looking at it, and this is when Alicent's like, listen, your grandfather, the Hand, is going to try to get you to kill Rhaenyra, to put them to the sword. You have to reject it. We must not rule with cruelty and callousness. We, you and me, and for all her faults, Rhaenyra is your sister, your father's daughter, half sister. And it's like, it's all just going right past Aegon, because he's thinking about the love from his father and the dagger, and the moment he looks up to her and he's like, do you love me? I love that she's like, you imbecile. But she smiles as she says it. Yeah.
Oh, you imbecile. I'm talking about like how we have to rule the Seven Kingdoms, prevent the war, send terms to Rhaenyra. We're not going to kill her because Otto's going to tell you to do this and this and this. And she's like going over this. And it's like, this is why, because she's your sister. Viserys loved her very much. We're not going to kill her. Okay.
Yeah.
Mom, do you love me? It's like, you imbecile.
Yeah.
Shut up. Of course I love you. I'm putting you on the Iron Throne. We've done all this early in the conversation. Do you know what has been done to give you this day?
Yeah, like everything I've gone through.
I love that. I love that. Her reaction was like,
it was so funny. It was like a heartwarming little moment, like, you know. And she kind of smiles when she says that.
We know that she's been very harsh with Aegon, with all his depravity that she's had to cover up and everything.
But it doesn't mean she doesn't love him.
Exactly. It's still her son. She still loves him. But just in the moment, she's trying to get him to focus on, you're about to be crowned.
And that's what you're focusing on? It's like, clearly I love you.
Daemon tells Viserys in the throne room when they're fighting, your word is truth and law.
Oh,
when you become king, when Aegon becomes king, his word is truth and law. So she's trying to impress upon him, this is what we need to do. Not kill Rhaenyra, okay? Mom, do you love me?
She's so like, that's what you're hung up on? Like, it doesn't even matter. You're about to be king. So funny. And this is when the watch captain is like, make way for the royal wheelhouse. It's like, and I'm realizing, so this is how you gather crowds for royal announcements in Westeros.
Yeah.
This way, you filthy peasants.
Exactly. You drive them with horse and whip and block off every potential avenue of escape. You force them to a location.
Hilarious.
And here, I think Rhaenys gets caught behind one of the royal roadblocks. And then as the horsela, speeds past, the city watch lets her go.
Yep. So perfect transition. Oh, this reminds me of, it's like when, it's like Sansa and Baelish are heading north on the King's Road and Brienne and Arya are kind of hiding, or the Hound and Arya are like lurking nearby, and they kind of like cross paths and they see the carriage go by, I think, but like they're just so close to connecting, but they don't. Because Arya's lost at this point, like long lost, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty crazy. And then as soon as the royal carriage goes past, they reopen the street and then continue to literally herd all the small folk up the hill towards the dragon pit.
And this is when Rhaenys realizes that they're going to the dragon pit, and a smile crosses her face as she's like, yes, this is exactly where I want to go. And I have cover among all these bazillions of people. I'll be able to infiltrate and hopefully exfiltrate.
Yeah.
And so then it cuts to outside of the dragon pit, and we get a cool overhead shot of the entryway and the people funneling up and through the different paths. And at this point, the small folk have given up resisting, and they're like, I guess we're headed to the dragon pit. And they're all just kind of lumbering along, and we enter, and Otto is telling them the situation, that it's a sad day. The king is dead. Viserys the Peaceful. We get that name, the new moniker for Viserys again. But it's also a joyous day, for as his spirit left us, he whispered his final wish, that his firstborn son, Aegon, should succeed him. And the crowd is kind of like, like they're not really quite sure how to react at this point, but they applaud, and he calls the guards, and a procession of guards arrive for a dramatic entry for Aegon, forming a double, two lines and crossing their swords. It made me think of Alice in Wonderland when the queen is arriving, and all of the playing cards have their staffs of like clubs and stuff, and they cross them. And I think, or maybe I'm just hallucinating this in my memory. But it's so cool. Aegon comes walking through, and the trumpets play, and they sort of echo throughout the pit in a really cool, like, such a big cavernous room.
It's huge.
But it has great acoustics.
Definitely.
And Otto is looking nervous at this point, like, oh God, is it gonna happen? And Aegon comes walking through, and the swords swoop down behind him as he passes each set of sword. So cool.
I think it's sort of, kind of symbolizing we're all on this journey. Like, we're past the point of no return and there's no going back.
That's a really good way to look at that. So
for Aegon, there's no going back. For Alicent and Otto, there's no going back. For Rhaenyra and Daemon, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
They've crossed the Rubicon.
They have crossed the Rubicon. They have anointed and crowned Aegon and usurped the Iron Throne.
And the toothpaste is not going back in the tube at this point.
This is it. This is it.
Really cool metaphor. It's so crazy.
Yeah, so, for Aegon, I mean, he's the king now. And he kind of comes to embrace it there before Rhaenys, ruins his moment in the sun. But for everybody in the story, like, this is the point of no return. There's been a lot of lines in the sand, Alicent coming at Rhaenyra with the dagger at Driftmark. There's been a lot of things that continue to escalate it, but actively usurping the throne that was promised to Rhaenyra is war. So that kind of...
Yeah, that's the line.
And it's, it's a cool, visual thing for them to do. And it's like, don't lower your sword too fast, man. You'll give King Aegon a haircut.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crazy. And their movements, like, in drill and, we in the Marine Corps, we didn't reduce, like, the drill instructors, like, one guy had a sword in the whole formation and he marches around with a sword. But anyway, like, in the silent drill platoon, they have rifles with bayonets on them, but their movements are like all have to be perfectly in sync. And
Chesty Puller designed the drill,
nice,
the Marine drill stuff. He took them from being like a mess and made them drill champions.
Just kind of excellent. So they, the movements here, with the swords, as far as each pair, as they lowered it, their timings all seem pretty much right on. Then, like, when they march in and then they turn inboard and then draw their swords and raise them, and then they raise them again as one. I think once he comes through the tunnel, and then they like go to sheath, and they all sheath them, and it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And I assume most of those they had real actors for that, or the end of the line they may have kind of filled in with CGI in the background. But
the crowd looked amazing. Talking about like CGI to create bigger crowds. Remember there was that Rings of Power clip where they had like a tiny crowd of like 100 people, and it was just they spent $1 billion on this show, and it's just like clusters of the same people all over the place. This one, I paused it. I looked around. I couldn't find any duplicates. This crowd looked legit. It was awesome.
Yeah. A lot of them, though, it looked like, it's like, is there no like middle class? Because they all looked like beggars almost, it seemed like. It was like they're all just in their ratty brown, kind of disheveled looking, at least the ones at the front that I kind of glanced at.
Yeah, no middle class in King's Landing.
There's the lords, and then there's the small folk who are all, like, there's no middle class in the small folk. It's all poverty.
So it's right at this moment where Otto begins to speak about how it's a privilege and good fortune to be here to witness this day. You start hearing the Queen's green dress theme. And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. And Otto is talking about how it's a new day for the realm, for the city, a new king to lead us. And Rhaenys is watching from the crowd with fascination as Alicent kisses Aegon's forehead and they begin the ceremony.
Yeah, this seeing Rhaenys in the crowd.
Like Arya,
as she's watching Ned at the Sept of Baelor, right before he gets beheaded. At this point, Arya's hair had been cut, right?
Yoren grabs her from the crowd and then cuts her hair right after.
Okay.
As he's walking by, he notices Yoren and he says, "The statue." And Yoren goes and sees Arya up there and collects her, and he's the one that slices off her hair.
But when she's standing on the statue, she's not as incognito as Rhaenys is here, but we get, a girl or a lady in the crowd, who is lurking and kind of trying to see what's going on and what's happening. Mm-hmm. And Arya was powerless to do anything about it. Oh. So it's not the same as Game of Thrones. And like George Lucas said, it's not history or whatever. It's not the same, but it
history rhymes. Yeah.
But here, Rhaenys is not powerless to change things in what's going on. She is in the moment as she was getting pushed into the dragon pit and down the streets of King's Landing. But now she's in the dragon pit. this is where she wants to be. And she kind of waits and witnesses and kind of looks around for a little bit, sees Aegon crowned.
As the Septon is doing the thing. It's as he's like rubbing stuff on Aegon's forehead. This, may the warrior give him courage, may the smith lend strength, and it's at this point that Rhaenys makes for the dragons.
Yeah, she's like, I've seen enough of this. Let me go get my red girl.
Hilarious too that there's like no locked doors between this area and the dragon. It's fine because the dragons wouldn't fit through these small passages anyway to get there, human-sized passages. But and obviously, like, nobody's going to be stupid enough to try to go down there, and if they are, they'll get flamed. So who cares?
Maybe their thinking is, why does a dragon need to be guarded? Yeah, like if it's not their dragon rider approaching him or some other dragon keeper or other Targaryen, Valerian, with the blood of old Valyria. Yeah. They're probably going to get cooked or eaten or both. So
get turned into toasted Tarleys.
Exactly. Toasted Tarleys, man. What a great scene. So the Septon Eustace, which I had forgotten his name, he's featured in the book a fair amount, I think. He anoints and basically blesses the king. And then Kristen and so this is book accurate. Kristen takes Aegon the Conqueror's crown and kind of proclaims the crown of the Conqueror passed down through generations. Let the seven bear witness. Aegon Targaryen is the true heir to the Iron Throne. Brutal. So they have to state this out loud in public because they're usurping the throne.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, all the small folk have been conditioned for the last 20 years that Rhaenyra is the crown princess.
All the small folk.
Exactly. There you make a song about that. And I think through this, we kind of get Aemond and Helena and Alicent all their reactions as Cole is making this proclamation. Cole puts the crown on his head, and that's it. We're, like you said, we're across the Rubicon.
And the second that the crown goes on Aegon, I feel like he looks like a totally different person. Like all of a sudden he looks pretty badass.
Yeah. We've been kind of complaining about how he looks, and he looks younger than Aemond, and he looks like the White Shroot. But I think they cast him for what does he look like with
the crown.
Aegon's crown.
Yeah. Because he looks awesome at this point.
Yeah. With the white, blonde platinum wig. And the crown is like, okay, what does he look like there?
Exactly.
And that's what they cast for. And then they don't really, however he looks without the crown on, it is what it is.
Yeah. Who cares?
We're just trying to get to the coronation.
And he kind of looks at each one of his family members, and they all kind of nod to him. What's her face? Helena nods and turns away, and Aemond gives a deep, thoughtful nod,
Aemond Bear. He almost doesn't move at all. It's like almost an
super
imperceptible slow. Little, almost I don't want to bow to you, but I at least have to kind of move my head a tiny bit. And Otto gives him a pretty nice bow. And then I think when he's still at this point he had stood back up, but when he was kneeling right as they crowned Aegon, the camera was kind of from Aegon's right and Aemond's left, and it was kind of looking through the gap in between Cole and Aegon, and we were seeing Aemond specifically in one shot,
watching the crown go down.
Watching the crown, and it was just a cool shot, and what it's conveying to us that it's Aemond is the one who really wants this, not the one who's getting the crown.
Yep, I liked that too. And so he stands up, and Kristen proclaims, "All hail His Grace Aegon, second of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and the Protector of the Realm." And at first, nobody claps, and it's just quiet. And I'm like, "Oh God, what's happening?" And
I thought we were going to get a Jeb Bush moment here. Clap, please.
Please clap.
Somebody, please clap.
Yeah. And,
or like in Shrek, I think there's a guy with the cue card. Applause.
Yeah, they have him at Saturday Night Live and stuff like that too. Applause, applause, applause. The red blinking light.
Yeah.
And the bell tolls and Kristen yells again, Aegon the king. And then the crowd starts to erupt with applause. And it's at this moment where Aegon suddenly feels a rush of this approval that he never got from his parents, coming from the crowd of thousands of people around him. And it takes him a moment to absorb it and realize what's happening before he realizes, they love me. They love me. And he starts pumping his sword-filled fist up into the air, drawing even more dramatic applause. And it's like he's like a singer at a rock show. He like, the right side of the crowd. To the back. To the left. And he pumps his fist towards different sections. And the crowd is like doing the wave, not literally, but they're all cheering in response. He's pointing at us. He's pointing at us, And Otto looks around like it's working. They're accepting him, and the last minute change of plans for the heir. Yes, it's all coming together. And it's like Aegon craved that love and affection from his mom and dad and never got it to this level because he's a psycho, but now he gets it amply from the crowd, and this type of positive reinforcement for a psychopath could have catastrophic consequences. You don't want somebody like this to be reinforced positively to think that they can just do whatever they want and it's good and people will love it, because man, he could really start doing some crazy stuff.
We were robbed a tiny bit from the books. Basically, right after they crown him, it's like the crowd is silent for even longer.
Oh, man.
And a lone voice says, "Long live Queen Rhaenyra," or something like that.
Oh, shit. Damn.
And then finally, I think something happens, and then the crowd finally starts to come around to Aegon.
Damn, that's crazy. So, yeah. And then Aegon, as the crowd screams, Aegon stands with his arms outstretched. Just basking in the glow of the glory and love and affection. And Alicent smiles.
I'm the king of the
And it says Aegon is standing there basking in the love of the crowd, and they're screaming, chanting, "Aegon the king, long live Aegon." The crowd goes wild. It's at this moment that all hell breaks loose and the beast beneath the boards busts up through them. Boom! Giant explosion.
Remember what Alicent said to Rhaenys? Ring the bell when you have your answer. This is Rhaenys ringing the bell.
Yeah, rang a bunch of the bells of the King's Landing citizens, and a giant cloud of dust and smoke and debris and chunks of rock flying everywhere. A whole section of the floor is devoured into a gaping hole. And people are flying all over the place as Meleys, the Red Queen, with Rhaenys astride, jumps up through the ground and starts spinning around and growling, and his tail is sweeping through the area, and through the smoke we could see people flying in every direction and falling down into the chasm where they'll inevitably be devoured by other dragons.
Definitely. That dragon pit was packed through the people. Packed! And Meleys is huge. And Meleys is a big dragon. And she just busts through the floors. And just people everywhere. And then, like you said, after she's moving and swinging, she's probably crunching people with her feet. Her tail is just like whipping people like crazy. It's complete pandemonium.
It was pandelirium. I thought we'd be killed or even worse.
Hundreds of people were probably killed at that moment. And
I was thinking like 500, 600, 700, maybe 1,000.
Maybe it easily could be. Oh man, so brutal. It is. Did
you notice how thick the doors are?
Super thick. They look like
probably 4 or 5 feet thick, but it's like it's a dragon pit. It's there to keep the dragons in until the dragon riders are ready to mount them and leave. Damn. So I was like, if they shut the doors, Rhaenys will just blow through them. Will she? If Meleys like cooked the doors for like a long time, it would eventually melt. Whatever,
like lightsabers,
or iron, it just probably. I don't know. But anyway, somebody from the outside thinks it's a good idea to shut the doors with tens of thousands of people trapped inside with the wild dragon. I mean, not wild, but a rampaging dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the royal family trapped in there with it.
It's like, and Otto's like, no, open the doors, you fool.
You're like, what
idiot,
the hell are you
thinking? You imbecile. Stop. Open the doors for the love, man. That's pretty funny.
Totally funny. And it's just chaos and the swirling dust and, small folk are flying everywhere. And so this scene doesn't necessarily have the best graphics throughout this sequence. The smoke and stuff didn't look quite excellent. The distance shots of Meleys, it kind of looked CG, but it started looking really good when Meleys' face creeps up towards the dais, towards the royal family. And man, it was so sick. He has spikes like all over him that point out, and it looked like a Dilophosaurus. It made me think of that scene in Jurassic Park where that's like, and he spits acid all over the Newman's face.
Yeah, super crazy how, like, most of the time, I think Cyrax too, we noticed kind of they're like laid almost straight back. I think like they can kind of not necessarily, but flare them out, a little bit at least, or a lot. It's really cool looking.
I got that impression too.
Pretty interesting.
Kind of like a bird's feathers, how they can kind of angle them. Like Loki will puff up if she wants, and then
and my chickens do that. They'll like kind of ruffle up or like a cat can maneuver its body to look weird and more intimidating. So as Meleys' head, gets closer and closer to the dais, Allison jumps in front of that. But before that, she tells Cole, get Helena. That's her number one priority. Not the king that she just crowned in the moment of like absolute peril and danger. Get Helena.
Yeah. The innocent.
So Cole is dutiful as ever. Instead of jumping in front of Aegon and trying to slay the dragon, as the fairy tale knight would do, he obeys the queen, get Helena out of there, which they're still just standing off to the side.
Yeah, and the conqueror's namesake cowers behind his mama.
Yeah. I mean, Allison jumps in front of him, but normally you would think that he'd be like, no, mother, get out of the way. Mother. I'll slay this dragon. But Allison, like Rainey said, I have to credit you for your boldness. She stares down a dragon.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a beautiful moment that highlights the motherly devotion and sacrifice, willing to die to protect her young, just on instinct, jumping in front of the child. Is not a child at this point, but
her child.
And there's like a super tense moment where like they can tell the dragon's about to unleash on them and they're like, oh God. And Alicent closes her eyes and it's like she's accepting death in that moment. Yep. And then Meleys starts screeching at him, but no flames come out, only air. And this is when it looks like the Dilophosaurus, like it's spitting the poison all over Newman. With his spikes fanned out. So gangster. And
I was like, this whole thing is new, but I'm like, there's no way, knowing some of what happens in the future, I was like, there's no way she roasts them. But
right.
Man, I hope she does. Just being from Team Black, I'm like, oh, is she gonna roast him? Dracarys, say it. Like David, say it, please say it. But she doesn't.
Everyone on Team Green here almost joined Team Black if they'd been roasted from green to black.
They'd be toasted Carlys, toasted Hightowers. Crazy.
Yeah. And so the dragon like closes its mouth, and for a brief moment, Rhaenys and Alicent make eye contact, and Rhaenys is kind of like I let you live, kind of moment. And before the dragon turns around and the doors are kind of closing, and Meleys just like leaps out through the door. Like we haven't seen a dragon jump before, and she, whatever, jumps through the door and then takes to the sky, leaving the greens still green instead of burnt black.
Yeah, exactly. They probably needed a new change of what do they call underwear in Westeros? Small clothes. They needed a change of small clothes.
Yeah,
but. It's cool. Like, have you seen videos of like an owl or a falcon like fly between two people, and then and like pull all their wings all the way back and just go through this tiny gap, and then they reopen their wings to land like on the handler's thing or whatever.
Owls specifically have like these blunt, like flat-ended kind of wings that give them hyper maneuverability in the air. They can fly between tree branches and like really impressive stuff. And
Mainly sort of did that.
Yeah.
She sort of jumped and then kind of got through the door with her wings kind of pulled back, and then she zoomed through, that tight little space of the closing door. And speaking of flight, she going round and round the room. Loki, for our audio viewers, Loki is just doing laps around Duncan.
I think she's got a pope. I'll hold it for
check out the YouTube video. But she gets through the door and opens her wings and goes whoosh, whoosh, get some speed and get some altitude to get the heck out of there.
So epic, dude.
Rhaenys' armor was super cool.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like a samurai.
Must store it with her dragons. So she could, unless she had it on underneath her.
Right, some people thought she put it on under her, Daemon cloak.
She was wearing.
But her and Eric kind of got out of the keep pretty quickly, we presume. So I don't think she was sleeping in it.
Pretty quick, yeah. I don't think she would have had time to. It takes like 20 minutes to put on your hockey equipment, so it's got to take at least half an hour.
Medieval armor is way worse than that. But
exactly.
Anyway.
So people online are criticizing Rhaenys for killing hundreds of civilians, but then not finishing the job and killing the Greens. But as Alicent said just a couple scenes ago, reluctance to murder is not a weakness.
Yeah.
Plus,
definitely.
there's the whole element of kinslaying. Yeah, so kind of sucks she didn't myrtleize everybody, but at the same time, kinslaying is kind of a big deal in Westeros, right?
Yeah, and kingslaying. So even though he's, like Lord Bees the Bomb said, he's an imposter.
Imposter.
He was still crowned and anointed as king just then. So regicide and
fratricide, or no, that would be
patricide is killing your parents. Fratricide is killing your sibling, or I can't remember. Anyway, I think the showrunner and/or the director or the writer or somebody was saying that basically in that moment, Rhaenys kind of looked Alicent in the eye, and even though they're going to be on opposite sides of this war, Rhaenys basically, that's another mother, and with her kids, and ultimately, this is not Rhaenys' war to fight.
Yeah, true.
I mean, she's going to take sides, but it wasn't for her. It wasn't Rhaenys' war to finish.
Definitely.
So,
and people are mad that she killed a bunch of innocent civilians, but there doesn't seem like there's any other exit. The ramps were closed, so they couldn't go up the ramps. There's definitely no other exits around underneath. So the only way out, it's either she's going to die or she has to escape and just cost a bunch of innocent lives to save her own, I guess,
Yeah. It sucks to be small folk in King's Landing.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's kind of a brutal take on it, but I mean, it's just
the reality.
All those people, get killed. But the only thing cooler that would have made that scene cooler, I think, is if she had like roasted the floor and it was like flames and dust, like almost exploding the floor, Sept of Baelor style.
Yeah, like
boom,
shooting fire
just
up
in that
and
area,
blasting
just
it
shoot
open.
Fire up and out. And then like burst through the flaming floor.
Yeah, that would have been tight.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So as the doors close, finally, the episode ends focused on Alicent, who sinks her head in relief, considering the implications of all that has just happened, with Aegon standing behind her. And if there's any question in his mind as to whether or not she loves him, now he knows the answer. She stepped in front of a dragon to shield him. Pretty hardcore. Anything else you want to add about this episode overall?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, wow, what a ride. Just the High Tower is trying to control and constrict the flow of information, and they can't keep Massaria from finding out. They can't keep Rhaenys, under lock and key and her dragon. And ultimately their plan worked as far as holding the news as tightly as they could for that one day, and then finding Aegon and installing him on the throne.
Yep.
But
for sure,
it's still their plan didn't work out exactly the way they wanted because Maelys and Rhaenys are, presumably going to go to the black side, Team Black.
To the dark side.
That's not the way Otto and his council of traitors drew up their plan.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Otto rolling up joints. There's that scene where
he's doing that when I think before Alicent comes in and says, "Haha, I won the battle. I got Aegon." So I think it's right before that scene.
Yeah, what the heck is he doing?
He's rolling up a Raven scroll, about to send it off.
But he's putting wax on the inside of it.
Yes, I remember you said that, and I didn't look for it. I didn't look for it on when I watched it. Y'all said that, I may have already rewatched it. So yeah, I don't remember watching it in close detail to see if. But obviously, the wax goes on the outside, and you put the little
stamp on it,
stamp or a signet ring or a seal, whatever you do to it. But even that, remember, Varys knows how to unseal and reseal.
Oh yeah,
a sealed message.
Ooh, the tricks of the trade.
Exactly.
There's been some great memes with Otto Hightower. Pretty epic.
So man, great episode.
Definitely. All right, stick with us. We'll be right back after a short break. And now, time for Ravens Calls.
Lord Tom of the Misty Moor says, "Sorry if this has been said beforehand, but this show desperately needs comic relief. Give us a Tyrion or Bronn character, anything. There's no humor at all to bring levity to all the pain and death. I think I'm enjoying the show overall, but I'm not really sure anymore."
I think we'll get something. There's got to be. Mushroom would have been that if we had gotten some shroomikins.
Yeah, definitely some jests from Mushroom the Fool.
Yeah.
I mean, I laughed at the "you imbecile," but if you think about that from Aegon's perspective, it's pretty harsh. But I took it as fun. But yeah, there's definitely not that witty, Tyrion kind of a character to.
Maybe we'll get something. I don't know. I think Daemon's funny. We just didn't have any Daemon this episode,
Yes, some of his, cracking up during Lena's funeral or her you googly. I mean, it's like inappropriate funny. Like you can't be laughing right now.
True. And I'm laughing at Laris, but that's always inappropriate too. Maybe I'm just sick of the head. Thank you, Lord Tom. Always good to hear from you, brother. Hope all is well in the Misty Moor. Sir Matthew of House Repp says, "Here we are at the precipice of civil war and the penultimate episode of the first season of House of the Dragon. With King Viserys gone, Otto wastes no time in putting his well-laid plans into motion. Poor doddering old master of coin, Lord Beesbury, comes to his senses just in time to get his head smashed in by Kristen Cole. We see family lines drawn not only amongst the Targaryens, but between House Cargill as Eric realizes what a monster Aegon can be and splits from his brother Eric and tries to smuggle Princess Rhaenys out of King's Landing. Little did he realize that the Queen who wasn't and Maelys the Red Queen had things well under control. Mysaria's quote about power, "There is no power but what we allow you to take," is very similar to Varys's. "Power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow. Both believe that it is the small folk that give the kings their power and use their treachery to help the common people." Good point. Good connection there. I like that. I would try to make a Laris joke, but I'm afraid I would get off on the wrong foot.
Oh, nice.
Classic. Thank you, Sir Matthew. Great to hear from you.
Lady Mary Patricia of House Dorigo says, Allison standing up to her dad. Nice. Larius had a foot fetish. Whatever floats your boat, man. Aegon is throwing some serious Joffrey vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I think she means at the end when he's kind of getting high on power.
Yeah,
Rhaenys is a sick badass. I love her. Husband thought it was a slow episode, but the tension just kept building and building. Loved it.
So much tension. Good to hear from you, Lady Mary. Thanks for writing in. And Lord Joey of House Pool posted the picture of the guy leaning out from behind the tree, licking his lips like like he's eager. And the caption says, Laris strong, thinking about Alicent's feet again. Oh, man, so brutal.
Definitely.
And we have a voicemail from Archmaester Stitches.
Sir Duncan, Lord Zach, Archmaester Stitches from the Siren Isle here.
Yo!
Well, I'm going to say, man, you got to see this episode was just not as gripping without Team Rhaenyra involved, not having Daemon and Rhaenyra in the episode. It felt a little more one-sided.
Zach is agreeing.
It was good. It was not my favorite. Definitely not Battle of the Bastards or some of the other episode 9s we've had throughout the original series, but definitely not the weakest episode. And better with the differences from the book to what the show's doing. I think what they're doing with the White Worm's motivations for what's going to happen, which is a massive spoiler, so I'm not going to go into that, but it's coming. And I think that Helena's Demon Under the Boards, a lot of people would think, well, that's probably just Rhaenys breaking through the ground, which it could be, to do this awesome scene we saw in this episode, but I think it's hinting more towards something else.
Ooh.
And that's all I can say about that right now. But Rhaenys, man, she could have saved like HBO a ton of money. She could have just roasted the whole council there. The Team Black would have just won in a fell swoop.
Yeah.
But I think, and y'all might have already talked about this, but I think it's got to do more with this was finally something in her control, that she could choose what happens instead of it being chosen for her by the people and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Man. I noticed in the opening that Viserys' symbol filled with blood. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, some changed stuff.
Gone. And then it went down and you could see from the high tower of Alicent's little sigil in the opening that there was 4 bloodlines. So they did hint to, I can't remember his name, Darkan or Dankon or something like that.
That's
the 4th kid that we haven't seen. So I'm guessing he's going to be in season 2. He's the baby. I don't think he'd even be a baby at this point.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, man. Again, not as all over the place as I would hope it would have been. It was very concentrated. I felt like the whole thing was kind of like a Where's Waldo finding Aegon episode, which again in the middle of the season might have felt a little better, but being the penultimate, I was a little disappointed in that. God, I still hate Aegon. Fuck, this guy got like kids with filed teeth and their nails sharpened and stuff like that with like house sigils on their backs, like fighting in a pit.
So
fucking
insane,
crazy.
dude.
But then there we go. The high towers, just already breaking their... I mean, they still could put it into the fighting pits, but I doubt it. But they burned the White Worm's mansion there, so I don't think they're going to stay true to their word. And I felt really bad, though, for Alicent, because the book makes it seem like she's so involved with all the conniving and everything that's going on with her council, and you can see that she wasn't privy to most of it, and she's actually upset that they're just continually just using her more and more as a pawn.
Maesters gave her a bad name.
Her father's game, and the Lannisters are all involved and everything. So
damn Lannisters.
But I did hear that all those pre-screeners that go out all these YouTube channels and stuff like that, none of those went out for this final episode. So, which is cool. So that means that we'll get to experience it with the whole world. And I think something big's got to be coming if they're not going to, something that's not in the books. Like this whole Rhaenys face-off with the king's coronation and all that in the dragon pit. None of that's in the book. So that's really, if they're going to do something like that, only even larger, then I'm good. Because I can't remember his name I'm talking about, but the Bald Kingsguard guy, I think he dies way early on in the book, and he's not dead right now.
Sir
and obviously
Harold.
He's going to do like a Barristan Selmy, it looks like.
Woo, yeah.
And, go to
Joining
Rhaenyra.
up with Dany.
It seems, I don't know. Again, that's all uncharted territory, which I love. Again, better and better differences between the book and the show. The show is just so much cooler, and I'm ready for next week.
All right. Great to hear from you, Archmaester Stitches. Always got great feedback.
Awesome feedback.
And yeah, a little bit less crazy than I expected the penultimate to be as well. But it was gripping in its own way. The tension was super thick. So I ended up really liking it a lot. And I forgot to mention just how much I love the design of Melee's, the Red Queen, Rhaenys' dragon, red with little white spots and stuff. It just a really cool looking dragon overall. Really awesome. All right, that's our show, episode 129. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks so much.
A huge thank you to John Bailey, the epic voice guy from the Emmy-nominated Honest Trailers, for announcing our show. And many thanks to our epic patrons on Patreon: Sirenicide, Lord John of House Grilz, Sir Matthew of House Repp, Lord Jeremiah of House Becker, the last High Gardener of High Garden, Sir KoriEugene of House Kuhn, and Lady Naya of House Thryce. On another note, if you enjoy my take on stuff, you might be excited to learn that I'm working on a project of my own, a series in a novel screenplay hybrid form called The Core Saga. More info coming soon on that. If you'd like to donate or subscribe to support us, you can go to paypal.me/GOM podcast or patreon.com/GOM podcast to donate an amount of your choosing. There are links to both at gameofmicrophones.com and in the description of this podcast.
Doing some online shopping, then go on over to gameofmicrophones.com, scroll down to the bottom, and click on our link to Amazon. As an Amazon associate, we earn from qualifying purchases. Any contribution you make helps, and you can help secure the continued existence of GOM.
And make sure to check out Sirenicide and Hearing the Haunted, the horror drama podcasts featuring me and Archmaester Stitches. Go to Sirenicide.com and HearingTheHaunted.com or download them wherever you get your podcasts. Next episode, we'll be covering House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 10, the finale, The Black Queen. We'll be recording on Monday afternoon again, so make sure to send us your episode feedback as quickly as possible following the show's airtime so we can include your thoughts on Game of Microphones.
If you'd like to call, you can call us at 813-JOFFREY. That's 813-563-3739.
If you'd like to send a raven, you can email us at ravens@gameofmicrophones.com.
Make sure to join us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/GOM podcast. Each week, we're posting a feedback thread where you can leave your thoughts and comments on new episodes for us to read on air.
You can also watch Game of Microphones on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. Audio podcasts are great, but
video is better.
And we're currently trying to build our minuscule, tiny subscriber count, so go to youtube.com/gameofmicrophones now and subscribe. Likes, comments, and shares are also appreciated.
We're on Twitter, Instagram, Gab, and Minds at GOM Podcast.
And on Tumblr at Game of Microphones. All right, that's our show. Thanks for listening. We must not rule with cruelty and callousness. For all her faults, she is your sister, your father's daughter.
Do you love me?
You imbecile. That means you've seen all previously aired.
Season 1, Episode 9, The Grut Council. Since I don't like the Greens. The Green
Council. Wearing little black boots, little leather boots.
If Alicent, is as pure as the wind-driven snow, as you like to think,
as I know,
just say,
you mean?
I wrote all the names down. The scheming plotters, the plotting schemers,
darkling plots. Filling in for me today is the tweet.
Nice.
And thunder ominously rolls. Mm-hmm. Give me a mic check. Perfect. As the Canadians would say, beauty, eh?
So basically, what's the law of primacy? That's a different thing, but I was trying to think of a smart thing to say.
Just going to get my horse. No, nothing to see here.
The little boy that was the bagman.
Eric.
I thought for a moment there might be a dragon sitting on the other side of the gate. That would be crazy. Let go of me. And I think as they're carrying him off, he says, "Do you know who I am?" Which always cracks me up when people drop that line. It's like, It doesn't matter. You're in trouble.
Yep.
Probably didn't get a trial by the jury of his peers.
Yeah, probably not. And if he can't get more feetsies, maybe he would be upset. He might be loyal to them stanky feet.
He has died, and y'all are up to no good.
Y'all are up to no good. That's like the first time I've ever said y'all out loud, I think.
Nice. Alicent, has the right of this. She has the temperament and thought process of, counting the cost of her people, more than, most rulers do. She's obviously way better fitted than Aegon would be. Get out of here.
I may only be a young girl without knowing the ways of war.
Funny. R.I.P. man. R.I.P. Roy Thryce. He was so awesome.
Yeah, but she has people in the keep. Like her spiders are slinking around. Everybody's at danger if Miss Arya is angered.
All right, I gotta
roll.
Run.
All right,
yes, sir.
Sounds good, brother. Stop recording here. Stop recording. All right, there.
Nice. Actually, not nice.
What the hell? I'm fucked in the head. Eric is the one that goes black and never goes back. You know what you got to do if you want answers. You know how to get them. Take them shoes off.
We're doing the thing.
This is where she takes the stockings off.
Oh, so, it's really getting serious.
Out of my way. I will not let this treachery stand.
Treachery! The Greens are treacherous.
Totally. This way, you filthy peasants.
Exactly. You drive them with horse and whip.
It's weird to talk about poop in terms of favorites, but bird poop is the best poop because it doesn't stink at all, and you just wipe it up and it's gone.
My favorite poop is...
Yeah. Exactly.
That's my favorite.
My favorite poop.
Ugh, nasty.
So they're really, really making Alicent like Cersei in terms of the music. That's what the music is telling us, that these characters are like parallel characters. Ugh.
This is Rhaenys ringing the bell. Melee sort of did that. Yeah. She sort of jumped and then kind of got through the door with her wings kind of pulled back. And then she zoomed through, that tight little space of the closing door. And speaking of flight, she's going round and round the room. Loki, for our audio viewers, Loki is just doing laps around Duncan.
I think she's got a pope. And I'll splice that earlier as well.
We're all out of order.
Yeah.
Do you love me? Make way for the royal wheelhouse. Or say, make way for the royal horselah.